YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We're gonna open this box right now. It's not all new, but it's new to us. But we're gonna see what it's all about. From Durafly. You may have already seen what it is from the thumbnail, but it is definitely something that's brand new for us, and I know what it is. And it is the Carbon Arcus from Durafly. So as you can see here, there's no imaging on here, so we're gonna get it dumped out and see what we got inside the package. Now this is a formation flight plane. The last time we did a formation flight plane, the comment section was not nice to me because I don't know anything about that and have almost no interest in it. So we're gonna find out if I have interest in this plane, and we're gonna find out right now. So here it is, guys, from Durafly. High torque, high speed digital servos, battery tray and strap for extra battery security. Stunning high vis scheme and orientation marks, okay. And it also has, it is a biplane, as you can see, and you can see some imaging here. So unlike the top. All right, so the motor is a 3719 820 kV, wingspan's 1,000 millimeters, so it's not super big. And the length is 1145. So notice it's quite a bit longer than it is wide, not uncommon on these formation flyers. Aerostar RVS G250 amp, I don't know what the RVS stands for, but it's definitely the ESC there. And then 4 9-gram digital metal gear servos, which is pretty good, and the prop is 11.5 by 5. Not very aggressive pitch because the way these things fly, not meant to be super fast. They're almost like 3D, but they're not really 3D. 2200 4S is what this thing is supposed to fly on. So without further ado, we're gonna get this thing opened up and we're gonna see how it looks. So if you guys are brand new to Brian Phillips RC, we unbox them, we build them, we do the full radio setup so that you don't have to know much and you can follow along, and we'll help get you up to speed. If you're into formation flying, my guess is you're involved probably in club flying. We do almost no club flying. The most club flying we do is when we go to Joe Knoll, so far 2 years in a row here, and hoping to be able to do it in the spring, depending on how our construction is going, if our construction is going, and if we can afford to, because the construction of the damn gift shop. If you guys are unfamiliar with what the damn gift shop is, it's actually just a giant building we're building that's gonna be right next to the damn runway. All right, so as you can see, everything is well packed. We've got a nice sturdy foam package, not a lot of twist, very strong. That's good. We got a quick start guide, which is always handy. The last time we got a quick start guide was on the Yak 11, which is back here. And that plane was really good. Super excited to be able to bring that as our kind of refresher to Hobby King. We haven't done a Hobby King product for years prior. But that plane, we never glued the wing spar in, and I think it was supposed to be glued in, partly because I don't read instructions, and secondly, because I don't remember seeing it on the quick start guide. So that being said, guys, we saw it in the comments. So thanks for leaving those things in the comments below. If you have comments, leave them in the comments. We read them. We don't always have a chance to reply to 100% of comments like we used to, just because of the sheer volume. But we want you guys to know that you're being heard, and sometimes for better or for worse.
We do probably read 100% of them, I would say.
We just don't always reply to 100% of them. And truthfully, like on the shorts and stuff, we don't always see 100% of those. But the long form comment, we usually go through all of it. Okay, so we got some parts here, pieces. And here on Brian Phillips RC, what we do is we put them together completely, and then we show you what the process is like. Many times on the Hobby Kings from years past, the build quality was maybe a little bit lacking, and we're hoping that it's going to get better. This is a little bit strange. Uncommon principle issue here. Come close. You see this? It's marked on the back side. That is the first prop I've seen that's marked on not the face. That's the first time I've seen that ever. Very unusual. Typically, the rule of thumb is it's marked so you can read it on the plane, on the nose of the plane, and the only time that you deviate from that, show the people.
So this is the back.
That's the
where
back.
It's marked.
The only time that you deviate from that is if you have a pusher prop, and it's usually mounted on like the dorsal fin area of the back of a plane. So very unusual. Okay, so we've got the wing out. Annoying factor, AKA pet peeve, number 1,375. That would be, I don't like putting ball links on, or I don't like doing this, okay? That being said, it is what it is. We're gonna show you the way we see it in the unbox. You also notice that we have a pinch hinge, but it's pretty robust. There's a lot of material in there, and this feels like a somewhat wiggly foam, okay? So it's not bad, it's not good, but it is what it is, and that's what we show here. We like to show you guys what we actually see and not what the manufacturers tell us to tell you, because we really don't care what they say. So that being said, seems robust enough. You remember, there's gonna be 2 of these wings, but there is quite a bit of give in that. Now I'm not sure if that's for, you know, resiliency so that you can take some blows when you're flying, or if it's just cheap. We'll find out. A lot of times that is gonna be symptomatic of a plane that is faster or slower than you expect, okay? If you got a plane that's going 150 miles an hour, you need to have a little bit more stiff body, okay? These are nice and stiff. And I gotta say, the decals are really thick and well applied. Got a couple of air bubbles here, but they do look nice. Pinch hinge here, but there's a fair amount of material there. I am not, full disclosure, I am not a huge fan of pinch hinges, but this is still a relatively small plane, so pinch hinges are gonna be pretty much the norm, okay? So again, linkages are not landed, but that makes sense because this is, of course, going to be on the horizontal stabilizer. Looks like we've got a kind of a snap together, screw together style mechanism here. I don't want to put it all the way together, but that's going to translate the movement from one side to the other, and it looks like it's pretty solid. So that's really nice. I like when I see this reinforced plastic. It takes this bite of the foam and really transfers that movement nicely. Also, I like that there are 3 adjustable points. Even though this has ball links, it will allow you to then adjust the position so you get maximum throws if you don't like the factory setup out of the box, okay? Little piece of tape fell down, not sure why. I think it was holding those wires so that they didn't whip around and beat the heck out of this. Okay, so just unpackaging this, as you can see, really well packed. Good foam to protect the foam from the foam, which is what we like to see. We're used to seeing that on the upper echelon products that we review. We've got some wheel pants on here, stickers, and it looks like it might be softer wheels. We're gonna find out right now. Okay, so these are just loose right now. These are relatively soft. It's kind of like a softer foam, not super soft, so I'm hoping they won't get big dents on them when they're just sitting on display, but you can see that they're in pretty good wheel pants. Wheel pants, be careful, by the way, this is carbon fiber, okay? So carbon fiber, I think it's carbon fiber. It might be aluminum. Maybe it's aluminum. It just felt really rough on the edge. It just looks like carbon fiber. Maybe it's just aluminum. I think it's aluminum, guys. My apologies if I was incorrect in my assessment initially there. This might be, yeah, that's aluminum. Look, you can tell right here. It's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes between aluminum and carbon fiber at certain thicknesses because they do look and behave a lot alike. Look at that texture. Does that not look like carbon fiber?
A little bit, yeah.
Ironically, the Carbon Arcus is the name, so I just assumed. And when I ran my hand across it, I felt like I got fibers in my finger, and it really hurts. So I was gonna warn you about that, and then I'm like, wait, this isn't even carbon fiber. So I'm glad I caught myself. Okay, so top wing. You can tell the top from the bottom because there's no, there's less hinging. You can see right here, this is obviously gonna go into the fuse, reinforcement plastic that goes in, and then this is gonna adapt from the top to the bottom. Looks like it should be a relatively easy assembly. Nice mold release on this, nice smooth lines. You don't see a bunch of these little, I'll find an example. Right there, you don't see a lot of those things. Right there, those little 6 or 9 dots. You'll see a little bit on the bottom wing. Look close. You see those?
Yep.
They're spread out a lot further. And then up here, it's nice and smooth, so good for laminar airflow. But I'm not really even sure why they put those things on there. I always assumed it had something to do with getting them out of the molds easier. But I do not know that for sure. Okay, so just kind of unpacking this as we go. We're getting down to the fuse here, and everything seemed to be really well packed. That's something that we like. Okay, I'm gonna just grab by the rudder. I don't like to do that, but there's not really a good place to grab otherwise. Okay, so I'm gonna lay this so I can reposition my hands, get off of the rudder. And as you can see, it looks a little bit like a ship. And if you wanna look right here, we've got the motor, nice motor mounts. Good jigging for the paint, and then this is a decal. It's real slick from the mold release on this still. And we've got plastic here, which looks nice, good ventilation. Lots of ventilation on either side too, which is good. These things historically are very thin, like fish-like bodies. And it's ironic because the F7F, which is an FMS product, of course, has that fish-like body on it. Come over to the middle so they can see what I'm talking about. The nacelles are round, but then the body in the center is very tall, okay? Tall and skinny, which is kind of cool. I thought maybe I saw a bend in there. It's not a bend, it was just an optical illusion. But huge vents out the side too. So this thing is going to be performance for precision aerobatics, okay? And that's what this plane is designed to do, is precision aerobatics. So again, if it's your cup of tea, great. I'm probably going to fly it more like general or sport aviation and a little bit less like the F3A style flying. It'd be F3A, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
So we don't know much about it because admittedly, we're not involved in that sport per se, but just keep in mind, guys, that doesn't mean you can't get this plane if you're not. If you're interested and you like the build and you like the review, smash the like button. Try not to punish us if we're doing something maybe you're not into. We try not to punish the manufacturers if it's something that's not on our first starter list of interest. One thing I can tell you about my RC experience, if you haven't already connected the dots through the progression of watching Brian Phillips RC videos, is that over the years I have adapted to many different styles of planes, partly because we've just done a lot of them, but then secondarily, it's because my interest has really broadened as we've gotten deeper and deeper into the hobby. I have a really huge appreciation for different planes, even if they're not my go-to planes, okay? Now that may not be true for all of you, and I know the way it was when we first got into the hobby. I was like, I want the F-16s, I want the F-18s, I want the F-14s, I want the commercial airliners, I want this, I want that. I had special ones that I wanted, and guess what? You get those planes, and sometimes they just fulfill that special need that you had, and then other times you get them and you're like, I'm really let down by this plane. And so it just depends on the quality of the build and the quality of the experience. We're gonna help you guys have the best quality experience with a limited budget. And in this case, we're hoping that if you're into this style of flying, you're gonna find all the answers to your questions you were looking for, okay? So look how thin that is.
It's really thin.
Very thin, very strong. Now this is carbon fiber, okay? So you can tell it's carbon fiber because it's much lighter, but it definitely looks like carbon fiber. These are definitely not carbon fiber. Okay, then we have a tail wheel assembly. So we're just kind of undoing the pieces. Our Unbox portion of the Unbox build radio setup on a personal level is not my favorite part of the build series. And that's because I always thought it was kind of goofy that people wanted to watch this, but people watch it. And so we do it. And if you enjoy that, smash the like button. We do long format content on Brian Phillips RC. We got a Y cable here. Okay, so it comes from the receiver, splits out to the Y to go to the ailerons. Now for us, I'm not 100% sure how we're gonna set up the wing type, but typically if we have a plug and fly or plug and play aircraft, we're gonna tend to put flaperons on this type of application, even if they aren't called for. And that's because I like flaps a lot. I like inboard flaps way better than flaperons or spoilerons, but both of them are usually quite effective in helping to slow down planes. Now that being said, this style of plane is typically not going to need that. This is now emptied out. That just had all of our connectors here. Has this push rod style. It's a different style. We see this a lot. We see this from Dubro a lot. And these slip on there. They go around and then they clip, but don't clip them until you're ready. See? And then these snap on. It's kind of hard to unsnap them. And every once in a blue moon, you'll break these. So I would recommend not screwing with them until you're ready to put them on. Okay, just my experience here. It does come with this hex drive, which is kind of nice. We don't get those very often in planes anymore. I'm not sure why the manufacturers decided that that extra 1 cent we couldn't spring for. I'm probably not gonna use it though.
Probably not.
So I've got that there. And then the screw bag, nut and bolt sack, put out your hands. See, there it is, okay? So you can see there's one set, and then there's two. There's a second bag, and then a third bag, and a fourth bag, and they're all separated into types, okay? So I'm gonna leave those in piles of like styles. I'm gonna leave these ones in the bags. In fact, I might actually, just for grins,
put those
I'm gonna go ahead and
back.
put these back into this bag alone. And then I'm gonna have these all handy for when we do the assembly. Now, on most YouTube channels anymore, it seems like short form is the leading method to reach an audience. Well, on Brian Phillips RC, we start with long form and we do shorts, but we always clip from long format. So it's just highlight reels. And if you guys are new to Brian Phillips RC, don't worry. We have no intentions of dropping the long form content because that's what we do. That's how we reach our audience. And that's what we want to bring value to the RC audience by showing you the entire build assembly. Okay, 3-piece spinner, screw on, goes like that, receives the prop, and then it screws on through the middle. Okay, and then that'll trap the prop. Not a fan of 3-piece props, full disclosure, but it looks like that's a pretty tight fit. And it does look nice. So we'll see if it holds up the way I expect it should. That should be a pretty easy process.
And it's better than the snap-on ones that we seem to
I
always
hate snap-on ones.
with.
Yeah. So as you can see, pretty high piece count given what we're used to. Now that means it's going to take a little bit more doing to put this plane together. I don't think that's a massive problem, but just keep that in mind when you're making a purchase decision. We want to give you guys good information so that you can decide on what you like about a particular plane. So that being said, we're going to get out our cool tools. Look at that fancy holder. And then 2200 4S is the pack that they recommend. So we're going to defer to 2 choices for batteries on this. Now, of course, if you're buying from Hobby King, you might want to buy their offerings because you're going to be already paying for shipping. So at this point, we've got China Hobby Lines and we've got the Spectrum 2200. These are 2 of each, of course. 4S 2200, 4S 2200. These are 30C discharge and 30C rated and 50C rated, which would give you a little bit more oomph on these packs. And admittedly, these are considerably more expensive than the China Hobby Lines. But you could also get the graphene packs or whatever they're offering from Turnigy right now at Hobby King. I started in my hobby experience with tons of Turnigy packs. And the reason we went smart is not just because we worked with Horizon, but because I couldn't keep up with them. And auto discharging packs is like the bane of my existence. Not only do I feel bad doing it because I feel like I'm wasting energy. I paid the electric company to charge it. Well, we have solar system. And then I discharge it automatically, annoying, or purposefully, but actively. Both methods annoy me because I feel like it's such a waste of energy and it's a waste of time. So the best choice is charge them, use them, put them away at storage charge levels. So one thing interesting about Gen 2 smart packs, if you don't know anything about charging, discharging, if you're full, and we'll stop right there. If you're brand new to the hobby, this plane is probably not for you. Let's just get that out of the way right now. So many manufacturers just claim that everything is a beginner plane. I can guarantee you right now, this plane is not a beginner plane, okay? That doesn't mean that you might not be able to fly it as we configure it. If you're a newer pilot, okay, we always set our planes up with Safe and AS3X, which is gonna give you stabilization and auto leveling. And usually we put an off setting as well. These type of planes, you might want an off setting so you can do some more aggressive, crazy maneuvering. But keep in mind, if you're doing formation flights, there might be rules against or for stabilization. I have no idea. I'm not trying to preach to the choir because I'm not in the choir. I'm just gonna tell you what our findings are on this particular plane. But getting back to the battery, interestingly, when we switched over to doing smart packs, it was very good for me. That being said, even the Turnigy packs were giving me about 2 to 3 years before they would just turn into giant puff balls because I would always charge them and leave them charged. It's kind of dangerous. The chemistry is more reactive when they're charged. It's more dangerous. There's more energy stored, even though the potential is there chemically. When they're charged, the chemistry is excited, okay? And it's stored. And when it's released, then of course it's gonna be a little bit less chemically reactive. So if you'd have a fire or some sort of weird situation come up where you lose a battery or it has a chain reaction, it might be a little bit less insane, okay? But we don't want to talk a lot about those things because they're such freak incidences. The truth is in this hobby, there's 2 ways to get hurt: batteries and props. Be careful with both. Take this stuff seriously. You don't want to burn your house down. You don't want to hurt your family. We got fire extinguishers all over the place. We also have egresses away from where the batteries are stored. So we do take it seriously. It doesn't look like it from this, but it is truly something that we worry about. And you should too. All right, so that being said, this is the quick setup guide. And so what it's gonna do is it's gonna tell you the basics. okay? Or you can find the full assembly instructions here by scanning on this QR code, which we may end up having to do, but I'm not sure. Do you want to just build it and see if we need help?
I mean, you're probably not going to follow the directions anyway, so we might
Okay,
as well just
so
start.
opening the lid, this comes off the top. We've got a little tape to pull it off, which I like. I don't have to put it on there myself, which is nice, magnetically attached on the top. And then we've got our different cables. Now, this throttle cable, interestingly, has a yellow cable coming off of it. I don't know if that is going to be kind of like what we've seen on our FMS offerings, which usually have Predator ESCs. That usually gives us a thrust reverse component, okay? So when you apply signal at -100, you go forward, and when you apply signal at +100, that's in the spectrum, you know, jargon, let's just say. When you give the pulse width modulation to +100, you're actually giving reverse thrust on a Predator ESC. But on these ESCs, I don't know. That could just be a programming port. For instance, the Avian ESCs in the E-flite, that is a programming port that's used to supplement some of the on-screen serial controlled programming that we would do to turn on thrust reverse or change the rotation of a motor and things like that, okay? But I don't know for sure that that's gonna be the case. We'll eventually revisit that when we get there. And we've got a nice heavy duty Turnigy strap here, and we've got an XT60 equipped, but very short, okay? So that's gonna be annoying. That being said, you can see the ESC in there. You're gonna have good cooling and carbon fiber tray. It looks like this strap could probably come out. Now it looks like they ran this all the way to the back hole here to leave room for the battery. You know, like it or hate it, it's probably where it needs to be, okay? So now let's talk about this for a second. We have two wires, one of which is going to the elevator, one of which is going to the rudder, okay? One of which is going to throttle, so we have three there. How the heck do we get the wires for the ailerons in here? Oh, they come in from underneath, okay? So they'll come in under here, and then we'll just pass them through wherever we need to pass them through to achieve our reach, okay? Because it's a biplane, it's gonna take a little bit more effort to build, and for that reason, I am a little bit tempted to possibly look at the instructions, but let's just think this through and see if we can figure it out. This is gonna obviously sit here. It should be no problem, okay? This is gonna go on the bottom. It should be no problem. We have a pretty good amount of length, but if you need extra length to feed this through, even if you plan to separate these off, you can plug these into your Y cable, which is what I'm gonna do right now. Brown is up. Brown is up. Okay, if you guys are brand new to RC or just returning, this is a Futaba Hextronic, or excuse me, this is the Hextronics JR color code. So you've got brown for ground, red for positive, or your power source DC would be like that brown and red. And then signal is on this orange or yellow here, okay? So if it was Futaba, it would be black, red, and white. So you can think, if you were colorblind, that's about what that would look like, okay? So, and this is, again, this is a Futaba color code with the extra signal line, okay? These ones are Hextronics JR, okay? All right, so now I can flip this over on its back, and I think on this build, for the sake of ease, I'm gonna grab my plane stand. If you guys don't have a plane stand, we've had pretty good luck with this. There's a variety of different offerings. We do link to supplies like this, but again, if you're at Hobby King, I can tell you one thing about Hobby King. When I first got into the hobby, I was big time on Hobby King. I would sit down for days and I would find like 1,000 different random items that I needed. Namely connectors, namely wire, heat shrink, you know, servo extensions. I'm literally still using them today because I got so many of them, and we have done a lot of planes. So, but one thing I would encourage you to do is that you'll find out as you work through the ranks of the hobby world, one thing that I found out is that a lot of the things I bought, I did not intimately need, okay? When you're brand new in the hobby, you think you need a lot more than you really need, okay? But you need more than you actually needed before because you weren't doing it before, okay? Or you're just coming back, you'll need different things than maybe you already stored up because we do things different than they did 15 years ago in the hobby. So don't get too out of control with buying thousands and thousands of dollars worth of connectors and things like that because they do change over time. And anybody who has Dean's connectors on all their batteries can attest to that, okay? So, see this? We've got 4 holes, well, excuse me, 2 holes here, and they are plastic reinforced and they spread out the load of the head when you tighten that into the wing, okay? And I was just kind of picking this up to see how it fits. It looks like that's gonna go in. Oh yeah, it's gonna be super easy. Maybe we should do the tail stuff first.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the wing is gonna need to go on, and then it's gonna make it awkward to work on all this stuff, okay? So let's assemble the tail first, okay? So this is gonna go in right here, and you see those little receivers? They're gonna take the screws, and then you just have to remember to slide this in to the rudder so that you can actually manipulate the tail wheel. Now, my understanding, if this is like every other plane we've ever done, is that I need to feed the horizontal stabilizer and elevators through, okay? And they're gonna snap on either side. Now, how do you tell which side's up and which side's down? Well, you can guess and check. And if it doesn't line up, you won't be able to easily tell on this one, but I can tell you this, that thing is not gonna be on the same side as that thing, because that is what manipulates, of course, your rudder, and then this is gonna manipulate your elevators, because they're split in half, okay? So I'm gonna try to feed this through. Now these have a little mechanism to assemble them together, but I'm still just gonna try to slide it in there first and see if I can get this to go without too much trouble. I need to be where you are.
Okay.
All right, so just snapping this through, or trying to snap this through. Yeah, I couldn't dry fit it because I felt like it needed to snap together. And so I'm like really not feeling it. There it goes. It's because this back one wasn't lined up. Now that it's lined up, this is weak here. If you push hard on this, you'll break it off. So you kind of got to pull from this, and it's a little bit awkward. Lick my fingers, gross, like that. And then I'm going to try to go together. There we go. That was much better. Okay, so now that that's together, I can see that there's a bit of a release tab here and a little bit of carbon fiber reinforcement here. I'm assuming that we have that most of the way together, but if you look right here, it goes from here to there. And if you look here, there's a little bit of a gap. So I'm wondering if we're not all the way through. It's hard to tell. Ah, yeah, we're just not centered. So we were all the way in, but we weren't centered. You see what's happening here, guys? There it goes. Did you hear the click? That was kind of hard to get the click, but now that it's clicked in there, if you look at this little half round here, and this half round here, they're not even. So I'm gonna push it just a little bit that way, and look, now they're even. That's gonna get this thing in there so it fits the mold, okay? Now, we need to screw this in somehow, and I'm assuming we're gonna screw it in here, and I'm just gonna double check from the top. There's not a screw point. I don't see a screw point. My fear is, now that we've done that, I don't know for certain if that is clipped in or if we're supposed to tape it in or what the deal is.
Right.
So I'm sure the instructions might mention something like this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna ignore those instructions for now, and we're gonna just look at our screws and see if we can answer the question ourselves. So we have a total of how many here?
6.
5.
5, yep.
And how many here?
3.
And then how many here?
Oh, a bunch.
Yep. Those are gonna definitely be for the wing, I have to assume. And then these ones, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ugh.
How many do we need on the landing gear?
That's a good question. So now that we've explored the hardware choices, I'm guessing that these two are gonna come from this bag of 3. That's my guess because it's the only one that would be definitive in that way. Okay, now we've got this thing that's gonna mount presumably on the bottom of the wing, right? Let's double check. Nope, that's trapped. That's trapped, it's in front of the wing, okay? So it's gonna go like this, okay? So there's gonna be 4 screws on there. That's gonna definitely go there, okay?
Okay.
And these are definitely gonna go onto the wing, so there's a total of 4 on each of these, so that's 8 total pieces of hardware there. Plus, so there's more than 8. Mm-hmm. There's not 8. There's not 8. I'm kind of making a bet right now.
Yep.
There's not 8, right?
Right.
This is obviously gonna mount the wing to the body and the landing gear to the plane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5, so that would be 4.
There was a bag of 5. Yeah.
Here's the 5. I bet those ones are gonna be for the landing gear. Okay, so landing gear. Guys, this is called process of elimination. You're fully aware of it, I'm sure. But my only fear is this. I'm still not 100% certain of this, because if you look at these wings, there are 2 big screws on the top, as you can see from this right here. 2 plus 2, so that'd be a total of 4, okay, that hold the wings top and bottom. There's 5 in there. So yes, wings, landing gear, wing struts.
Okay.
I can't imagine it being any other way.
I don't see how it would be.
So then we also have landing gear that have to be installed here, okay? So this is going to also call for, it looks like this might call for some more hardware too. Yep, there's 2 screws that go right there. See right here and here? Those 2 screws are going, obviously this is gonna go over here. So once that's on, these will also be fastened by that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put these right here for now, because our next move needs to be continue the process of elimination. Now, if you're not into process of elimination, sure, you could get the manual if you're into that sort of thing. We're not. Sometimes the way you learn how to do stuff is by making mistakes. Other ways to learn how to do things are watching Brian make mistakes. Okay, so I'm gonna dump these out. All 4 of them that I know I need, I'm gonna leave my spare right there.
So you're gonna put the gear on now?
Why are you going to that side?
So I can see you.
Okay, so number 2 millimeters, okay, just like this. We're gonna run that down and get that started. I just wanna get the first one in. Went in super easy, no problems. Guys, you'd be surprised how many times we have problems lining up screws. This hardware feels really good. This is a machine hardware, which I do like. I prefer it over what's going on back here, which appears to be more of like a wood screw or like a sheet metal style screw. Okay, torque that on, torque that on.
Those are definitely biting.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. Okay, and I'm pretty confident that we have them all correct. Okay, so now let's think about this for a quick second. As we build this plane, I don't like reaching past a wing, so I want to get these landing gear installed next. And we'll probably do the prop next, ironically. Now, if you're brand new or just returning to the hobby and you're not 100% sure you can trust yourself yet with the setup so you don't get cut, do the prop last. We do the prop at this stage because it's easy to get to and you guys are watching a video on how to do things, okay? You can easily do it in whatever order you want. My suggestion is do it in the order that keeps you safest if you're not sure of yourself. I am sure of myself. I've still made mistakes, just to be clear. Okay, so this is gonna go on here. It's keyed with an octagonal drive, and there's an octagonal drive here, so that just slips on, goes to the octagonal drive, gets seated all the way back, and then the prop, it's gonna go like this. It's gonna slide back, and then you have to twist it until it kind of seats into this relief, okay? If you don't do that step, you'll know it's wrong, okay? Then this goes over the top and you got a nice, really, really crispy, clean fit. That is painted, that's not so good. Scratches, that's gonna show up. Then you just screw this on. Now, I do prefer props that have a hole through so that we can hang on to them. Just lost my bolts off the middle of the fuser.
Yes, I see them.
Okay, so I'm just gonna grab that and just keep going until it's torqued down, okay? Now keep in mind, since this is keyed on with a hex drive, we're pretty much done with that. We don't have to worry about going like insane tight, but do not use Loctite. I don't care if you think you need it, you don't need it. It's gonna damage your plastic. It will break down the solvent will break down the plastic. You'll lose your spinner, 100% guaranteed. If you don't believe me and you insist on doing something Loctite style, use paint on the threads or use a little tiny, teeny bit of CA and mar the threads with the CA. Let it set for just a second and then go to town. I wouldn't do any of that crap though. That would be a very bad idea. But some people insist on that stuff. I don't know why, but they do. Okay, screws, they're laying there for now.
Okay.
We're going back to the tail. Why are we going to the tail? Well, because this is the only place on the plane where I assume that these hardware pieces would work. Now, we have a bunch of them on the wing. It could be that we're supposed to be using those, but I kinda am just gonna go with it. If the first one doesn't work out, then I'll make an adjustment. I'm gonna grab one of these 3 screws and I'm gonna let the rest of them fall into my hand. And these ones, that's gonna be our second bag of spare parts. These clearly are not gonna be the ones that are used for the landing gear because we need at least 4, okay? Still 2mm drive, very nice rather than a Phillips drive, okay? And no, I'm not preferential to Phillips drives. The royalty checks have never cleared.
Yeah, we should update our address or something.
Yeah.
Send that to us.
If they could just do that, that'd be great. Okay, so that's Toyota, definitely the correct hardware.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so that's ready to go. This feels extremely stiff. I'm not excited about that. It felt pretty free. And by the way, look at this rudder. You see this? Go from the very top. You see how it's thicker on the tail?
Yeah.
Kind of weird, right?
It is weird.
I don't know if you're supposed to be able to like launch it that way or what, but you know, kind of bounce it on its tail and then launch.
Yeah, that is strange.
But I think it's going to create drag. It's designed that way. Okay, so also you can see the digital servos are serviceable, which is kind of nice. You can get to those relatively easy. But anytime you have something that far to the tail of an airplane, you can cause some pretty massive CG issues. Even small servos, these are 13 grams usually when they're metal gram, 9 gram servos. And you're like, but you just said they're 13 grams. I know, because they're heavier with metal, okay? But they're still a 9 gram size class, okay? If you're still used to regular servos and not micro servos, these are all considered within the micro servos, but most people nowadays call them servos because that's the 9 gram is like the gold standard anymore, okay? We have 15 gram servos, every once in a while a 23 gram servo, but it used to be 23 grams was a small servo, okay? All right, getting back to the point, guys. If you're just returning to the hobby, you're in the right place here on Brian Phillips RC. We're gonna try our best to teach you as much as we can, get you up to speed as quick and painlessly as possible, okay? So this shaft is already on. There's a bunch of crap on it. It makes me a little nervous. And just thinking about how this is gonna work, I'm gonna have to slide the shaft through and then put 2 screws on. It should be pretty easy, actually. But I don't like that there's a bunch of schmutz on there. But you know what? We're just gonna stick it in there because we can. And if it doesn't go, then I'll let you know here in a second. I am gonna actually pull this off. Does this come out? Not real good, but it does. I don't think I'm properly aligned. Yeah, it's not wanting to go through. I hope we don't have to ream that. Oh, nope, we don't, good. Okay, so now I'm just working the angle of the wheel so that I can get the other side of the wheel pant to slide in there. I need a little bit of room. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just struggling to get this set through here. And camera crew is not showing you anything you haven't already seen, I know, but the trouble is it's back here. It's not wanting to align. And I'm not sure that I'm really doing anything wrong. It's just awkward. You guys see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to force that to penetrate through the wheel, and it's just not wanting to go. Okay, we're gonna do the other side and see if we have better luck, only for the simple fact that I wanna find success to build confidence. If you have frustrating experience like this on a plane, go to the other side, see if it's better. Maybe you did something wrong. Okay, it wouldn't be the first time I've done something wrong. Okay, so pushing this through, then eventually we have to go ahead and line up with the bearing surface of the wheel. Remember, these are just like plastic on metal. It's not like there's a bearing itself. Okay. It's awkward, man. That's really awkward. Weird. Okay. Okay, so getting it to go. Getting it to go. Oh, come on, get in there. Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, so now I'm through. Now I just gotta press this in until I can get the screws. But just be careful, you don't want this to pinch. So I'm tempted to get a pair of needle nose pliers for this step and just pull that in.
Okay.
And that's gonna be a measure of, I don't wanna bend the wheel pants in and cause them to grab the tire, because it'll create drag, and a lot of times you get nasty yaw tendencies then. So watch this. In here, right here, just grab and just push that. You see how I did that? Instead of having to compress this whole body, this whole assembly, we're allowed to leave that free. Now, I would have really liked to see washers in there, but the truth is, how do you hold a washer in place while you do that? That sucked without a washer, okay? Now, before we get too excited and we go ahead and do this side, I'm gonna go ahead and get those screws in and validate that we have the correct screw sack. Now these are hex drive, which is really nice. And I gotta say, I'm impressed that they're hex drives. Yeah, really impressed with the hardware. Good. It is crazy. We've had some really nice, high quality planes from, let's just say, reputable brands that have had some terrible hardware.
Yeah, we've had some other planes that had really nice hardware.
Yeah, so look at this, guys. Not very deep though, so it's hard to hold on there, okay? So it wants to fall out a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get that started. It should be relatively easy. Once you get started, yep, it's in there and started. Camera crew is trying to give you, why are you moving?
I was gonna try and show them.
No, right there. If you guys have ever had somebody watch you do something, and then you just have them film you doing it, it's even more exciting. What is this, like our 10,000th time?
Like 10,000 times.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because like I get in a position where I can do it and then you immediately move. So look.
Okay.
Okay, so these are very high quality. I'm really happy with the way that went. Not happy with the way this one went though. And I think I'm gonna use the lessons from this, where what I was doing is I was able to hold the angle of the wheel and the angle of the wheel pant and kind of manipulate it up and down. It's just not wanting to go that last little bit. But I remember it popped.
It was like definitive, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, so I'm just kind of like going in weird circles. Let me see this. Guys, you see what I'm dealing with here? Is I am desperately trying to get that shaft to pop through there. I don't know why it's not wanting to pop through for me, because this one, it was awkward, but it went pretty easy. It's like it's not wanting to line up, and you can't press through the wheel pant to get the wheel to do the angle that you're wanting to get it to do. I'm gonna actually just go upside down like this and see if I can get lucky. It's in your blind doing it too.
Yeah, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
You can pause and say the magic words.
We might do that. I'm gonna keep fighting for just a second longer though.
Okay.
Let's just see if I think I can get it. It just doesn't want to go. I don't think I've done anything wrong. I'm gonna pull this off. Show the people the end of this shaft. I want to look at this wheel too. I'm gonna actually pull the wheel out of the wheel pant and just show you guys what I'm talking about. You see this little chunk of plastic that came out of there? That's from trying to slide this through. This is needing to go on here, okay? So I'm gonna just slide that on and see if I can get it all the way on. Okay, so you can see, even without the wheel pants, it still was troublesome. And look how not free that is. This is much more free, and I think it's just because of the nasty cut. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get another really popular tool of the trade, which would be a kitchen sponge that has this rubbing apparatus on it, like a 3M sort of rub thing. And I'm gonna just scrub the end of it. And I think it's gonna take off a nasty edge, because this stuff, it's like a sanding block, okay? Mine happens to be a little bit soapy too, and so that's gonna help us in that it's gonna help us to lubricate that entry point. And then I'm gonna grab a paper towel because I don't want it to rust any worse. It's already kind of got that surface rust going. So I'm gonna dry off this stuff. I'm gonna leave just the tip a little bit soapy and see if that gives us that little competitive advantage that we want. And then I just have to work this back in, which means I kind of have to pull that pant open to slide it down, okay? All right, let's see if we get lucky this time. So what is the rule of thumb? Cram it in. If it doesn't go, lube it?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't misunderstand. There it goes. Okay, so we're in now. Now I just have to do kind of like what I did on the other side, which means I'm gonna go ahead and use the needle nose pliers to pull this into the seated position. Except it's not all the way through, it's just through the wheel. Yeah, I gotta go, there, now it's into the pant, okay? Because there's the little receiver over here that's got to get it in as well. Okay, so now that we're all the way through, we can go ahead and tighten those screws. It should open up the wheel pant and thusly relieve the pressure. that might be exerted like it is right now on the wheel, okay? Once you get these 2 screws in, it's gonna make that so it spins free. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we go into all of the hellacious details of these builds so that you don't have to buy without confidence. And that's one thing that we like about working with companies like Hobby King that decide to let us air their dirty laundry on the internet. Which, by the way, we work with so many different brands that so far it's been pretty good working with Hobby King. Coming back, it's been forever since we did a Hobby King plane. We got a few of them downstairs still from our first go round. Had a really good time. It was a good experience years ago. There's always more work, but they seem to have stepped up their game a little bit in certain ways. Definitely have an edge over some of the brands that are out there. I won't mention their names right now. All right, so the wheels are on. We've got good free spinning, a lot of wiggle. It's probably gonna translate to kind of wobbly behavior on the ground, but every one of these F3A planes have always been kind of like, they're not designed to be on the ground. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so now we gotta put the wing on. The wing should be a relatively easy process from the bottom part. I'm just not sure if I want to try to get these things installed first or if it's going to be better to just install those once it's on the plane.
Yeah, I don't know.
I honestly don't know. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this wire. Remember, we mounted our cable there. Now I just have to make a decision. Yeah, there's all these holes where all the wires are already going through. Camera crew is going to come over. She's going to stand right in front of me. Right there. Can you show them that? Can you get the angle? Go up a lot higher. There you go. I'm going to feed this through that hole. Okay. I'm just taking the same path that all the rest of the crap is, and I'm just trying to ensure that it makes a bend. I don't even like that path though, but that's what you got to do. Otherwise your battery's going to interfere. Okay.
Okay.
So now that I'm through, I am gonna try to get both of those Y cable ends through. Oh, I'm in. Am I? Am I in?
I can't see the other end yet, but it might not.
No, it's stuck up in the fuse. Okay, so then I'm just gonna lower this down into this cavity. I'm gonna take the plastic. I'm gonna line it up here. Okay, can you see what you need to see? Because I can't see what you can see. And I just wanna make sure I don't pinch the wire, thus shortening the length I have to work with. That wasn't terrible.
No.
Could have been a lot worse. Push that through. Now, let's go to the longer screws. I'm gonna put my other screw bags down by those carbon fiber supports that go between the bottom and the top wings. So I got 2 of these. And then there's 3 left, 2 of which will be used up on the top. Drop those down. Should be 2mm drive as well. So hopefully, in the course of this build, we'll answer all the questions you have about how to build this plane. But if you have questions about the radio setup, fear not. We're gonna be doing that too as soon as we're done with the build. That's why we call these videos the Unbox Build Radio Setup. It's usually the first thing that's published when we publish a new plane. We always put this out right before. See that pucker? That pucker is what you want. Just a little bit of it. You don't want to go so bad that it rips the wing in half, but you do want a little bit of pucker, so it's going to transmit all that force. Now, after the first, second, third flight, sometimes you'll notice that it loosens a little bit. Not the screws so much as the foam in the plastic, okay? So you might have to look into that. That being said, if you really want to have a fun experience, you can fly this without the top wing. Biplanes sometimes fly really good without top wings, but I'm not going to probably do that. Just full disclosure, just wanted to let you know something to try. While I've got access to one of these hooks, okay, I'm going to reach into the fuse and I'm going to grab my Y cable and I'm going to pull it forward, and I now have that out. So we now have access to the ailerons. Full disclosure, we have plenty of room to reach and plug in for flaperons, but just to be clear, I'm not sure where the receiver is going to fit because, good Lord, that is not a lot of room.
No,
it's going to be tight.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in that train of thought, I got to make sure that we don't lose these back up into the plane, but I don't want to keep fighting this because there's not really a reason to have this flopping around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Velcro from the Turnigy branded strap here for the battery. I'm going to take all these leads. I'm gonna actually open up the strap almost all the way, and then I'm just gonna stuff it all together. You see that? So I just Velcroed that stuff together, and I'm gonna stuff it back into the canopy. Why? You might be asking. So that I can do that, okay? I hate when these things release this way, because then if you're flying, they have the capability of blowing off in flight, okay? That being said, this plane is not gonna be a speed demon necessarily. I still don't like that. And also, because it's a biplane with that forward wing going forward, it is sometimes a little bit of a challenge for battery installation on biplanes, okay? Now we need to put these things on, which always sucks when you're not sure, okay? So there could be a top, there could be a bottom, and there's an arrow. I believe that's what that is. So it either goes this way, or it goes that way, or it goes, obviously not this way, and obviously not that way, because the wing needs to go forward, okay? Now, you can dry fit this, and you can test your theory once you think you've got it, okay? This is keyed. It's pretty obvious which way this wing goes on this plane. So we'll just kind of slip that down in there and see if we get an obvious read on which direction these go. There is a right on this, and there would be a left on this, okay? So interestingly enough, it's marked right and left, and you don't need to know right and left there, because are these marked? Probably not. This is the one we need to know, okay? Now, two ways we could do this. We could find a manual online by scanning that QR code, or we could do it the easy way, which is tip this thing up and look at the drawing on the side. Interestingly enough, this does not match the drawing on the side, but this does. The arrow is up in this drawing. The arrow is up on this drawing, and it cants forward as expected. I don't believe that there's a big enough difference between these two that it's going to be an issue no matter which way we do it, okay? So I'm gonna grab one of my stools, pull it around so I can get to a lower point of view. I'm tempted to say it might be easier, okay, so the arrow is going to point forward, okay? So I'm just gonna lay this one down, and we'll come back to that. While this is not mounted, I can just set that in place and say, yeah, unequivocally, that is gonna get her done. Okay. I don't like that little angle though. Why does it hold that down like that? Oh, because it's probably lifted a little bit here. Now these are carbon fiber. I was just wiping my eye with my finger, and I thought to myself, I probably shouldn't do that, because that carbon dust gets in your eyeball. You're gonna be having a bad night, okay? So these screws now, we need tons of them, okay? I don't know how many we're gonna be left with at the end, but it kind of looks like we're gonna have a few spares, okay? So I'm gonna just see if I can get this in before I mount the wing. So far, so good. I gotta say, as many pieces that were involved in this build, this has been a really easy build.
Yeah, it really has.
I thought it was gonna be kind of like terrible when I saw the number of pieces, but to be honest with you, it's been pretty easy.
Yeah.
And wasn't the Yak 11 kind of the same way? It was like, or did that go like really easy?
We had like one wire on the tail or something that we fought a little bit, but it was an easy build too. Okay,
so now see the problem I'm running into here. There's not much room for the body of the screwdriver. So if you run into a situation where your whatever brand screwdriver this is doesn't work well for you, you can use the provided Allen key. I really like this screwdriver set, so it's worked really nice for us. That was a gift from one of our subscribers, so thank you. Was that Tom?
No, weren't those from Rick?
Rick. Oh yeah, Rick. Oh.
Tom sent us the red tipped
That's
German
right.
ones.
And then Grumpy John sent us the ball link pliers. Okay, so there's one. And here's another. And then, wait, what about the, Chris sent the calipers that are identical to the ones I have downstairs?
Is that Chris?
Because I'm too lazy to get them.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for always supporting us in our RC exploits here. Okay. So there's that. So those are definitely in there. That was way easier than I expected. So now we're going to turn this plane down. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we have and succumb to preconceived notions on a routine basis because we're opinionated people, or we wouldn't run a YouTube channel. The truth is, when I saw this thing come out of the box, I was thinking, ugh, this is going to be miserable, a lot of pieces. But so far, I gotta say, not only are every one of the screws the same size, but they have all lined up almost perfectly. I had to press that down to actually get purchase. And that explains the angle that I was complaining about. Now look, right here, that's under a decal. You see how it's pulling? As it puckers, it's pulling that tight. I'd rather err on the side of puckered than not. On a Hobby King product, there are some brands where I would maybe a little bit more trust, and I wouldn't want to go too hard puckering because there's just not that much surface area there, guys. So if you pucker too much, you'll just rip right through the wing, okay? Do you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. If I went too hard, that would literally just rip out. Okay? So if you're using an impact or something, don't do that, okay? But full disclosure, this thing does come out, and you could key this into, you can undo that screw, and you can take this out and use it in your driver, which is kind of handy. Okay, now I need to spin this around, and you'll notice one problem right now is it's so long, it wants to hit everything. But one other thing I've learned is that when you're working on planes, and you're old like me, you want to make it comfortable. So now I've made it more comfortable for myself, and that's what we try to do on this channel. Generally, we fail, okay? I'm gonna just lay this in here. Now, I don't see a difference in finish on these. Like sometimes you'll have one side that's like buffed and one side that's like brushed. These appear to be flat on both sides, okay? Flat as in finish. And yes, it looks like we're gonna be left. That is what you call process of elimination, folks.
Right. So are we gonna have one extra?
I think we might have two.
Each side?
I think we might have two of this one.
Okay.
But I haven't been able to count it thoroughly yet. Looks like, yeah, we're gonna have two extra of this. So, which is fine. There might be one more that we've forgotten somewhere. And it's like when you're a mechanic and you take things apart for a living, and then you find that extra screw or bolt at the end, you're like, where did that go? I don't honestly have that problem often. I'm very meticulous about stuff like that. And usually what happens to me is I drop the screw or bolt or nut into the trough drain underneath the vehicle stall. And it's like down there with like all the, you know, rat feces for the last 10,000 years.
Where'd you do that?
There's like small prehistoric villages that have evolved. And I'm like, yeah, they can keep that screw, bolt, nut, whatever it is. Okay, all right, so there's that. And guys, look at this sack of extra screws. Pretty cool. So we had one of each type and two of this type, which is a little bit strange. I don't think we missed any. It's possible they just gave us one too many, and extra bags too, which is kind of nice. And of course, my I had to wipe
paper
the
towel that we can
rag.
We can reuse that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully. So here's this. For something more fun. All right, so now we have all these linkages that have to be landed. But as you probably are aware, we don't have a receiver in here. So do we really want to land linkages on a plane that doesn't have a receiver? The answer to that question is probably no, because we need to make sure all the servos are centered, and I'm way too lazy to get my XBC battery checker out to do that. But I will show you what it looks like, and I'll show you how it works.
We'll get it out and show them, but not use it.
But I'm not gonna use it because that'd be a huge pain in the butt.
Why would we do
Okay,
that?
so here, as you can see, you have to have a compatible battery type, of course. And so when you plug this in, then you can plug in your servo, and then you can go into a servo test, and you can do your servo testing. You can also learn all sorts of information about your batteries. This is a cheaper tool. It's definitely something you want to have in your arsenal. Now, in terms of radio setup, we're going to be using our NX8. Excuse me, we're going to be using our NX10, okay? So the NX10 we have hundreds and hundreds of models in here. Airware, everybody says you can only put 250 models in there. That's the model memory limit. Well, I just want to turn this on and just show you something here real quick. We don't talk about this a lot because typically, you know, we don't want to badmouth companies when they give us bad information, but let's just talk about this frankly for a second. First of all, I've got like a 1 gigabyte expandable drive here. Okay, so I had the Hangar 9 J3 Cub flying it for fun the other day. We took some video footage of it. I flew it the other day before that, like the week before too. So let's cancel them back. And as you can see, we're at 231, and you're like, well, that's definitely not greater than 250. Let me just show you something, guys. Because I started on the NX6, and then I went to an NX8, and then I went to another NX8, and then I went to another NX8, or well, the NX10. Uh-oh, look at the numbers. You guys see what's going on? 1, 1, 2, 3, 7, 6, 7, 9. Okay. So I don't know if you're connecting the dots here, but that's clearly more.
And then we start at 1 again.
You guys see what I'm saying here? So I don't know if it's just the counter gets to 250 and then it says no soup for you. And then obviously there's a couple that have been in here I've deleted over the years. But at the end of the day, when I add a new entry, it's eventually going to crash. Oh, that one wasn't numbered. You know why? Because they didn't have enough stinking numbers, so they just went ahead and did it without numbers. Because we downloaded it from the receiver. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, so we're gonna add a new model. We're gonna create an acro right now, and then we'll do our standard radio setup. But we gotta figure out our radio, and we're gonna do that now while this has taken 6 years to create a new radio or a new profile, okay? Full disclosure, creating new profiles when you have 1 million models in your database of models on your NX10 or NX8 or whatever it happens to be, it does take considerably longer. Not a big deal, but I'm gonna come back with a box of goodies. All right, so we came up with 3 options that would probably work for this plane. 631 would be top pin, and it would have an external antenna. It's like $5 more or something. But the 630 is end pin, and it's gonna fit in there nicely because that end pin is really gonna help with this tight, compact area. The 637T also has the end pins, and the body is only very, very small, longer, but you're gonna have external antennas you have to deal with. That might be a problem in this application, and for that reason, I'm not gonna use this one. You also notice this is 630 plus, okay? I had to update the firmware on this one to get it up to the AS3X Plus level. This one comes factory installed with the AS3X 3.XXX or 3.XXV version, okay? So if you're 2.XX, then or older, then that means you're not gonna have AS3X Plus. You need to update your firmware if you wanna get it. It's not hard, we've done it. It's actually pretty easy. We did like all of ours, so we had a lot to do, okay? This is brand new, so it's actually going to already have it. If you buy this with the upgraded firmware, about the only thing that's different is that it will say like AS3X Plus on there. So it'll be an AR637T Plus, and then it's mounted upside down. Like, I don't understand. They must have thought there was something better about that. Or you could use something like this. You could use, you know, from our folks at Buddy RC, you could use a Lemon RX receiver, and that would give you telemetry via that little adapter, which is kind of nice because it's an XT60, okay? We really like Lemon RX. They are good. We've had good luck, but we haven't done one for a while, so we're gonna stick with what we know, and we wanna give this plane a fair shake. So 630 is what we're going for. I don't wanna do pack telemetry because I just don't wanna fight it. That battery wire is short. It's gonna be a pain if you have to do this on that, okay? So we'll pause and get this pulled out. All right, so we're gonna break this out of the package here. So, by the way, I don't know anything about F3A rules. Leave them in the comments below if you guys know what it's like to be involved in that. It's some sort of competitive aerodynamic, you know, training rituals, and you go through and
pattern flying.
So you learn rituals. But for us, we just have never done that. I'm not into that sort of thing. But I do love planes, and I have, like I said, an appreciation for the way these things work, and see how they are better than other options for different reasons. Okay, so I'm going to slide this out. The only reason I say that right now is because there is a possibility that there might be rules that you're supposed to follow in A3. What was I saying?
F3A.
F3A, yeah. So this is a 630. Okay, so you can see it's pretty compact. And of course you've got 6 plugs and then the bind button. You can also use a bind plug if you're concerned it's gonna get into an area where you can't get into it, okay? And so in our case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and create a profile, and then we'll just have this ready to rock and roll, okay? So we already started it earlier. And so we already did model select. Model type was already selected as acro, and model name. So this is where we're gonna type it in. And it should be the Durafly Carbon Arcus, 1 meter. So we'll come right back after we get that scrolled in. All right, so we got the Durafly Carbon Arcus 1 meter. Yeah, it's kind of didn't fit very good. So you know what? I think I'm gonna I'm gonna just do this. If you guys didn't already know this, that's how you take out a character, and then this is how you insert a character. Drives the camera crew crazy whenever I spell things wrong to make them fit. But I just want to have all the information there. Okay, so now we hit back, and we're gonna go to aircraft type. This is where we can set the flaperons. Now flaperons will also act as spoilerons, so you may not need it on this plane, so it's probably not really necessary. You could also set it up as dual ailerons, but if you're gonna do dual ailerons, you're using it for differential. So I would say at least just do flaperons. Okay, normal tail type. I'm gonna select an image. It's actually not too far off, but there's a biplane, so we'll use the biplane. Now this is where we set up the flight mode. You don't absolutely have to do it this way, but this is the way we have been trained to do it. And when I say we have been trained, meaning the School of Hard Knocks has trained us to do it this way. So you see how it says switch D? Okay. So now watch this, channel assign. We don't have retracts, so this isn't going to necessarily be needed, right? So I'm going to disassociate that from gear, okay? So you could technically use that if you had, a lesser transmitter. But remember, the NX10, the NX8, the NX, they both have 20 channels now. And so even though it's not a pluggable channel, you've got way more channels up above that this can tap into, okay? So we can go all the way up to 20 channels on this. Now the NX6 has 14 channels, the NX7E has 14 channels if you've updated your firmware, and you don't have to buy the new NX10 Plus or whatever. You can just update your firmware and you've got those features, which is pretty nice. Okay, so channel 7, switch B. I don't really...
Because you'll use B for flaps.
Yeah, B for flaps, but I mean... Actually, why don't we just do F mode there, actually? Okay. And you could also do it like this. You can highlight that and set it to switch D, but I prefer to go to whatever channel you're going to use for your flight mode and just do it that way, because then this is already attached in the other menu, okay? I'm going to disassociate that. Well, no, actually that one, we can leave that on the rotary knob. That's fine, because that'll be our master gain. And then we're going to disassociate the left and the right sliders, which are back here, because we're not going to need those for this application. And then we're just going to go out of the menu. Okay, so it comes up and it says flight mode 1, flight mode 2, flight mode 3. I forgot that setup. So I'm going to go back to system setup, disconnect RF, acknowledge that, go back into flight mode setup, switch D, and then below that is spoken flight mode. So the flight mode name, this is what's going to display out there on the screen. So I can highlight cancel, cancel, that's going to clear, and now I can type in AS3X, which stands for Artificial 3-Axis Stabilization. By the way, if you guys are noticing, this is a legacy keyboard. I prefer the legacy keyboard over the new one where you can scroll through a QWERTY keyboard. If you don't like that, that's fine. You can still do all the same functions I'm doing. It's just a system setup in your NX10 or whatever it is you're using. Okay, so I'm going to type that in and come right back. Okay, so AS3X. Now remember, this is just a label. That's what it'll display on the main screen when this switch is in that condition. You're like, but you didn't ever tie that to D. Yes, I did. I tied this switch to flight mode 1. So there's 3 conditions. And then I tied flight mode 1 to channel 7, which is auxiliary, what, 2 or 3 or something auxiliary like that? 2. So then I want to change the spoken flight mode. I'm going to scroll way down to about here and make it say AS3X verbally. AS3X mode. If you guys can't hear that, she's talking to me, okay? Now, I have to highlight and press test to do that. It won't automatically tell you that every time you switch when you're in system setup because the RF is disconnected and you're in this setup menu, okay? Under normal circumstances, she would call it out every time you change the mode, okay? Cancel, cancel. We're gonna set one to off, so OFF. If you guys are brand new to Brian Phillips RC and you're thinking, hey, you're really not dumbing this down enough for me because I'm brand new to the hobby and I need more help than you're helping me on this particular plane. That's partly because this is a more sophisticated plane. It's gonna be a little bit more for somebody that's been flying for a little bit. And so we try to gear our videos so that we stay true to that, okay? So that'll be off, and then this will be safe mode. Okay, so we'll just highlight this, highlight that, cancel, cancel. Then we're gonna type SAFE. Remember, safe is not for babies. It's not just for brand new pilots. It is a useful tool for people that want to have a panic recovery sort of setup. You can actually do a true panic recovery, but I just generally say just like turn on safe if you want to have some help. And if you get mixed up doing some pattern, then you can use that tool that's in your tool bag. You've paid for it, you might as well take advantage. The AS3X is really what I'm after, but now that safe is built in and we have plenty of channels, there's really no excuse to not turn it on because it takes like an extra whopping 1 minute, okay? And by the way, if you're watching this video and you're worried about 1 minute, what are you doing? Okay. All right, so there's your 3 labels. We're gonna leave it in AS3X and then we'll just walk out. Okay. So now the next setup we have to do is throttle cut. It's gonna be one of the most important because we do have a prop installed. Whoops. So right down here, there's throttle cut. We'll highlight and then we'll exercise the switch H. We'll acknowledge our entry and then we'll look down here. It says -100. And as we move the stick, we see that it still says -100. When we turn that off, however, it moves with the stick. You see how it's down there at -98. It gets to about the center. And earlier I was talking about +100, -100. That's the way Spectrum does stuff, okay? Some companies do that different, by the way, okay? All right, good, so throttle cut's on and we're gonna set up rates in Expo. Now, rates in Expo are a little bit different if this is a formation plane than if it was like a 3D plane. I usually do a little bit different setup on 3D planes, but since this is formation, and I got ripped a new one the last time I got that wrong, we're not gonna do that again. Which, by the way, guys, in the comments below, just remember something. Even Brian Phillips RC, who's done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of planes and thousands of videos trying to help people get into the hobby, doesn't mean I know everything, and I hope you don't feel that that's the way I come across, because the truth is I don't. I'm learning something new every day, and as you get into aviation, whether it's RC or full scale or whatever it is, you should be learning something new every time that you get involved with the experience, because there's a million things to learn. And as soon as you think you've arrived, you're pretty much dead, because you don't ever arrive. You don't always know everything. There's people that know a lot more, of course. And the more experience you get, the easier it is to fall into that complacency. And we're trying to avoid that like the death plague. And part of the way we do that is by always expanding what we do. And so that means occasionally we're going to do planes that maybe aren't on our tip top of the list. And sometimes we're super surprised by how much we like them. Okay, so this is the way we're going to set it up. All 3 are tied to the same switch because I don't want to have 3 switches to deal with. But you could do that if you wanted to split them out. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll tell you why I do it this way, though, because I want to start here. Imagine the rudder is too sensitive. Then I can go here, reduce my rates, increase the expo with the flip of a switch. It's also going to reduce the rates on my ailerons and my elevator, but it's going to help get me to the ground. Once I get to the ground, then I'll set that to the middle setting. So I'll come up here, I'll change that to a 20, and then I'll make this a halving effect. I'll change that to 10. And then, of course, this one I'll change to 40, and I'll change that maybe to like 75, okay? So that will essentially be the new middle, right? Or let's say we get up in the air and let's say that the elevator is super touchy and we're like, geez, we need, or it's not touchy enough. It just doesn't give us enough. We can go up here, get to the ground, make our decision, decide how we want to apply that. Let's say that's where we want to make the middle. That's where we want to take off next flight. Then we'll set this to 5. We'll set that to 2.5, and we'll set this one to 10, and we'll probably leave that at minus 10% rates there. So it'd be 10% off of the full rates, okay? So then you would still have a halving and a doubling effect, okay? So doubling the expo, halving the expo, or excuse me, doubling the expo, halving the expo. Did that make sense? Did I say that right? So the idea is this is normal neutral flight. This is more sensitive. This is less sensitive. And then you just apply the change once you get on the ground, okay? So now we have set up all sorts of stuff. Flap system is gonna be attached to switch B, okay? Once we acknowledge that entry, it's gonna populate this menu for us. We're gonna leave that all at 0 because we don't want anything out of neutral position when we set this plane up, okay? Because here in a minute, we're gonna have everything plugged in. And how do we know where to plug things in? Well, you can look at the bottom of the screen or you can scroll over here to the monitor. Channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4, channel 5, channel 6, channel 7, channel 8, channel 9, and so on and so forth, right? And then if you scroll one more, you've got the X plus additional channels. Okay, so I'll just go back one. Now, if you guys didn't already notice, this is one thing I don't talk about a lot, but you click and then you scroll. You can scroll, and then when you get something you want to do, you can click, right? So I don't talk about that all the time, but you click and then you scroll to where you want to go. It becomes super intuitive. It's kind of weird because I almost couldn't believe it because I got used to this so fast working with Spectrum gear. Now, people complain that Spectrum's too expensive. Believe me, guys, there's cheaper than Spectrum, and there's a lot cheaper than Spectrum, and then there's way more expensive than Spectrum. Spectrum is still technically kind of like the middle of the road if you get right down to it. Now, they have such a huge market share, people sometimes beat up on them because they're like, how come I have to spend 500 bucks on this? Well, let me tell you something. You can spend 150 bucks and you can get the same number of channels and probably more features. But good luck and help setting it up. I was in the same boat you are, trust me. I have a DX18, I loved it. I learned, there was a couple of planes I really had to beat my head against the wall to get set up, by the way. But at the end of the day, I got it done because I could find help and I utilized it, and you should do the same thing. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, you know, I don't want to admit to my buddies at the club that I don't know how to do this crap. I just want to show up and have my plane set up and avoid the embarrassment. Be embarrassed on Brian Phillips RC. I'm not afraid of being embarrassed. I'll be embarrassed with you. That's what we do half the time on Brian Phillips RC. So just come here, we'll help get you through it, and then hopefully we'll make you a little bit better at what you're doing, and you can supplement what you already know, which is probably, in some areas, a lot more than what I know. In other areas, maybe a little bit less, but we're gonna help get you where you wanna be, which is in the air and out of the chair, okay? All right, so we're glad to have you here, by the way. Smash the like button if you haven't already. If you're this deep into the video, you obviously liked it. And if you hated it, smash it anyway, because we put a lot of time and effort into these videos. My whole family takes part in them. The camera crew, of course, is my beautiful wife of many years, and she is stuck with me.
Is that what we're going with?
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna untape all this crap. I'm gonna kind of stick it there. Now, because I want to have flapper-ons, and I'm a glutton for punishment, that means that I'm gonna have short lines for 2 of the wires, okay? Those 2 wires are going to be the right aileron and the left aileron. So we're gonna probably skip those 2. So throttle, then elevator, then rudder, then gear. We don't have any gear, by the way.
Right.
And then aux 2, yeah, we don't care. So it's basically gonna be pretty easy, but it is gonna be hard to physically reach those 2 cables because there is not that much length. We could use an extension cable, or we could also take and cut this wire right here, cut all 3 leads, boom, and then just take off the second extension, okay? That's what some people will do, okay? You could also take this and you could cut it here and you could build an end on it and you could extend and use that as a little short extension. But just depending on how cheap you are, you can make your own decision on how you want to handle it. But I don't want those to fall back in the plane. And so for that reason, I am going to investigate what choices I have for short extensions and come right back. So my camera crew got into my sack and found these for me, which is very nice. And so I'm just gonna plug these in brown to brown, orange to orange. Now, I'm actually wondering, I may not need these, but I'm still gonna do this anyway, just to show you guys, because it is probably going to be kind of tediously short. So why don't we just go ahead and we'll just plan to use them. Brown is to my left now. Okay. Just plug this in, make sure that you're fully seated. Now you might be tempted to go ahead and do something stupid like glue those together, but then about the time you do that, you're gonna end up having to get them apart. It's just my personal experience. All right, so channel 1 is up here. Channel 6 is down here. All right, so channel 1 is throttle. We already know that. And cable management 101, just work with it as you go. How do we know where things go? Negative is silk screen there on the left, right there. Mm-hmm. And then S is silk screened toward the camera, okay? So that means brown is down or black is down. So black is down in this case for the throttle. And then our next cable is going to be the right aileron. Now, we don't know which one's which, so we don't care. We're just throwing caution in the wind right now. If we get it backward, we can always flip them, okay? I am in the process of untangling this wire right now, which would be either the left aileron or the right aileron. We really don't know yet. Then the next thing is going to be the elevator. Crap, I don't know which one's which.
We don't know elevator or rudder either.
Okay, so we'll just plug that in too. And then we'll plug in the next one too, because we don't know what that is. Just make sure the brown is down, because I had a nasty twist on the end of that. This is gonna suck. We're gonna have to figure out every single one of these, except for throttle. That's annoying. Of all the times, we're gonna label throttle, but not elevator and rudder.
That last one needs to go to 6, not 5.
Thank you for catching that. Okay, so we'll unplug that and put it into 6. Now we can also test the throttle reverse here, but I'm kind of guessing it's not thrust reverse. It'd be cool if it was. We have an extra channel.
Yeah, we do.
Now, AS3X does not have to do anything right away. So what we're gonna do is, before we set that up, happens in forward programming, we are gonna defer to the China Hobby Line battery, because it happens to have an XT60 and a balance lead, so that makes this nice. These things are nice because they've got siliconed leads. Most of them do now, and a pretty substantial balance lead. That's nice when you're charging them, but it's kind of annoying in small planes like this, okay? You don't want a ton of extra cable. Now, a couple things to think about. Safety first, you don't want to get cut. This is a pretty substantial prop, and it's gonna be powerful, okay? I'm gonna leave this hanging out because we're not quite ready to mount it. But I do want to figure out if I can even get this in here. And in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in and leave this loose, okay? So plugging it in, I'm going to secure the plane with my arm in such a way that I am out of the way. Camera crew is going to go to my left, and she's going to stay safe, okay? Now, this is not bound, so I'm going to hit back and cancel. Excuse me, I'm going to hit click. I'm going to scroll down to bind. I'm going to hit bind. There. Okay, I'm gonna try this again, sorry. I should have hit that button on the receiver first. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to bind. I'm gonna hit bind, then I'm gonna hit yes. I'm holding the plane right now. It's arming the ESC. This is where it would start spinning. If it did, you'd wanna know. It's auto configuring some things from the receiver. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything at this moment. And at this point, we can just about almost trust that the prop is not gonna start, but now that it comes alive, we're gonna go ahead and do the first and most important thing. Throttle cut is on, it was not on. We're gonna test it. Didn't move the throttle, okay? Throttle cuts off, and it did work. And it's forward thrust, holy cow, that's punchy, okay? Throttle cuts on and tested. Okay, very good. So now we can trust this battery, or excuse me, we can trust this configuration because we have it locked, okay? Until I trust it, I don't trust it. You shouldn't either, right? Now, none of the surfaces are hooked up, none, not even a one. Elevator, rudder, aileron. It's gonna be a pain in the butt to test any of this crap, but we are gonna have to eventually figure out how to do it. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with primary flight controls like the elevator and rudder before we dig into the secondary control surfaces like the ailerons. And we're just gonna do it that way just because that's what I feel like doing. There's no rhyme or reason. It is just pick one and go with it, okay? In this case, I don't want you guys to think you're wrong if you wanted to do it another way, okay? We need the long ones down there, it looks like, right?
Well, what connects the ailerons together?
Okay, so one of these is gonna go from the aileron up, okay? And then one of these is gonna go, okay? See how there's 3 of the shorter and 1 of the longer? And then these ones are very obviously going to go from the controls on the servos to the wing, okay? So we'll put these on last, okay? So we have a longer one. Let's figure out which one's longer. And then these click-on things you're gonna help me with so that I don't have to search for them, okay?
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yep.
Good. All right, so there's a servo on this side, there's a servo on that side. This servo is facing forward, this servo is also facing forward. This one's a longer reach, that means you get the longest one. How do we know that? Because it's like rocket science stuff. Now, do they tell us which hole to put this in on the servo? No, it does not tell us, but it does suggest expo at 30 and expo at 60, good Lord. So if you're running without a stabilizer, I'm assuming that's what they're setting up, then you would do something like that. That's not what we're doing. So here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to put this in the outermost hole because this is going to be an F3A, ow, style plane. And then I'm gonna put this back to the rudder and just note that it's going to way push it off to the side if I don't adjust that. Because obviously that is gonna then move the rudder, okay? So how do we do that? We're gonna take this, we're gonna hold it down here so that it prevents it from spinning, and then we're gonna turn this a bunch. Okay, we're gonna go almost to where it's out of the threads, and that could be a bit of a problem. Now I'm actually thinking I'm gonna go from the inside out. See if I can do that instead. I like that line a lot better. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, this thing is going to need to snap down. So what usually I would do is I would slide this through the control surface, or I mean the control horn, and then I would slip this over the top, and then I turn it and snap it. Boom, just like that. And then what I want is I want this surface neutral when attached. And boy, oh boy, did I just get totally lucky.
That is really close.
That is really close, if not perfect. So I'm gonna take 3 fingers, press against each other, and then square this. And it's giving me some level of difficulty, but I got it without a tool. Usually I would have to use needle nose pliers or something. Okay, I'm just gonna get the right tool, and I'll show you what the right tool looks like in case you wanna try to use the correct tool. This is called a snap ring plier.
Bowling pliers.
Bowling plier, I'm sorry.
You called it that the other day.
Ring plier, geez. I do not like this tool because it's too thick. I have trouble with it because of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here, snap this on. So what you do is you line up, this thing goes like on the screw or the assembly up top, and then this straddles that little area and it snaps on. The bigger thing is you can take them off with this tool, okay? So now the rudder is going backward. So click, go into servo setup, travel, highlight it, scroll over to reverse, and I'm gonna reverse the rudder. Oh, we did get the rudder in the right spot though.
Yep, that was correct.
Well, that's pretty cool. It's moving a lot less far this way than it is that way. Look at that. Considerably more that way than this way. Why? Why? Is it because it's stiff? Is it because we're hitting? That looks like it's moving further. Is it in my head? Nah, it's moving further one way than another, right? That seems like a lot more. Sorry, I gotta see this. I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just in my head. Guys, I'm gonna go with it's in my head. When we fly it, if I notice that it yaws a lot more to the right than the left, then I'll be proven correct. If not, no big deal. No harm, no foul, okay? Now, same thing over here. We're gonna go ahead and line this up on the elevator. And we're just gonna, probably this one's gonna go in, not out. And yeah, we need to shorten that. Where are you? Okay, we need to shorten that. So when I pull up, it's already going the right direction, which is kind of handy. So in order to shorten it, I'm gonna grab this and pinch it like this and turn in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Get it square so it's at 90 degrees. A little bit more needed, okay. Now remember, this receiver is spatially aware. We eventually have to mount that, but right now we don't have to mount that for the steps we're doing. We'll eventually need it before forward programming. And we'll obviously give you plenty of warning about all that, okay? So now this squared, oh, we just got so lucky again.
Does it need to come down a little tiny bit?
No.
We're good?
No.
Nice.
I'm gonna go 1/2 a turn. There's 1/2 a turn more, and I bet it pulls it past. Watch. I'll go with what you said. Okay? So now look, this thing too, I'm gonna go to the inside. I'm gonna slide this on from the inside, and then I'll pop it on. It only goes one way, guys, okay? Then I'm gonna use this not snap ring tool to put this on, okay? Oops. See, if you go the other way, that's for popping it off. This is for popping it on, okay? But I just kind of wish they weren't bent. The bent makes it not work so good for me. Elevator up, elevator down. I don't need to rotate that direction, okay? Now, ailerons, we can do this one of two ways. I think We exercise these a few times to just work them flat. And we're gonna do the bottom first and then the top because, well, I don't know, it's probably not gonna make a difference. Why don't we just get them level since I've already got this next to me. And this goes in here, there's less adjustability here. We just need them to be even. So this needs to be there. I'm gonna turn it in a couple of turns. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if that works. I'm not snapping this on. I just wanna see where it lines up. Okay, so now that you see how this is way up and that's like down, so this needs to actually extend. So I'm gonna hold this and I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. Let's see if 3 is enough. And I'm just counting out half turns so I have like an audible reference for what's happening. Helps me associate. Nope, needs to go further. So there's 1, 2 more. Remember, tug hard on it. You don't want this to break free in flight, obviously. Okay, so now I'm holding that with my finger pressure. I need to come out just a little bit further, so it's gonna be another 1 and then probably 2. Now let's see how we look. Slide it on both sides. Look at this, holding my fingers right above. Can you even see that, camera crew? Mm-hmm. Go over my right shoulder, please. I want them to see that this is perfectly level and this is perfectly level. Okay, so now I'm gonna snap this on using this tool here. And this one here snaps. Oh, I went too far, you see that? You see what I did there? I went too far. So in this one, the easiest way is to probably just come back here and just walk it back. See, now it's on there correctly, okay? And you can just move that up and down until you get it in place. Then you can grab one of your clippy doohickeys. That is a technical term. Slide it on, come back towards yourself, okay? So guys, if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, if you want to help support us for the RC zaniness that we put in, we appreciate you doing that. Easiest way to do it, watch the video, smash the like button. If you want to buy something and support us, buy one of these planes from the links in the video description below. We make small commissions from the manufacturers that make these planes, but that doesn't stop us from telling you what we didn't like about them. And we do it on a routine basis. That being said, we do like working with manufacturers, and we do know that there's a lot easier ways to make a buck than making foam airplanes, okay? Like a billion easier ways, okay? So don't beat them up if it's not perfect, because they're just not gonna be perfect. We've had some huge improvements over the years, but I gotta say, there's still always room for improvement. And that's part of the reason why we like being in the middle of this, is because we wanna help drive success of the entire hobby industry and not just one brand versus another. So this one's even down below and this one's not. So what I do is I just hold the surface at the edge, and then I can tell this is too far up. So I gotta go in a little bit with this. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this, I'm gonna turn it in 1/2, 2/2. I think that's gonna be close to where we need to be. I'm gonna exercise this too, and exercise, yeah, that one needed broken in a little bit more. You wanna wear those in a little bit when they're a pinch hinge like that. Some manufacturers do a better job of working them in before they get to you, others do a worse job. That looks close. Looks really close. I think I need to go half again.
A little bit.
One more half turn out. Okay, we're gonna try this. Now holding it down. No, I need more. I need more. Did I go the wrong way? I think I did. So I'm gonna go 2. I think I went the wrong way the last turn. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now looking at this, I'm gonna hold this side down. And you know, it's foam, so it's gonna have a little bit of give to it. So, you know, it may not always work perfectly on the first go around, guys. Just plan on it. Oops, trying to do that backward now. I'd give you a better shot, but I really cannot do anything about where I'm doing this. The camera crew can, I can't. You hear that obnoxious cat in the garage trying to get in?
Yes.
She's driving me nuts.
We could let her in.
Nah. She wanted to go in the garage. She's in the garage now. If you guys have cats, leave me a comment down below. Let me know how they annoy you in your personal life. I'm curious. Okay, now this also overshot. Come around again. You guys see how that's overshot? That's really annoying. But all I'm gonna do to fix is I'm gonna support this plastic and then walk it back and just pop it down to the next step. Now, I'm not saying you could probably fly it like this and be fine, but I don't want somebody to crash over it. And it's awkward to get it down and out of there. So what you gotta do is you gotta use one of these tools, but you can't get the tool in there the way you would normally. And so you gotta kind of cheat and you use it like halfway, you see? I didn't quite get it there because you can't quite get it on the way you would normally get it on there because this plastic stops you. It doesn't reach up high enough.
And we've always said the backside of those is too thick to get under stuff.
There we go. Now I'm in the center.
Okay.
Okay, you guys see what I did there? Now that I'm on the ball link part, now we're really good. Nice and free and beautiful, okay? Huge. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this now. I'm just gonna slide this on. And then once it's on, I'm gonna snap it down. Booyah, just like that. Okay, very good. We're gonna exercise that just a few more times, make sure everything is moving free. One note, as we talk about a flexi plane, and I just feel like this carbon fiber is designed to keep the relative position of this. I don't know why you went back there. See the relative position? This has to be the same so that this movement translates to moving the aileron and doesn't translate to wiggling the wing. I'm not sure how that's gonna work in reality, okay? So it's just something we wanna keep an eye on as we go through this build process, okay? Now, we don't know if we got the right or the left hooked up correctly. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna highlight the right aileron right now. I'm gonna move these, okay? See, they're moving opposite directions. Okay, so when I go this way, when I move to my left, that goes this way, which is gonna raise that up, correct? It's gonna raise that up, okay? When I move this way, it's gonna raise this up. So I don't even know if that's right, I don't care. All I'm gonna say is, this one's coming toward us, so if I reverse that, does it go away from us? Did it come toward us instead of away from us? Nope.
Nope.
Okay, so that is the left aileron, and that one didn't change when I changed this. So now watch this. I'm gonna highlight the left aileron. Now watch this. When I move that toward the center, toward the left, it's coming at us, okay? When I click this, watch what happens. Now it's going the other way.
Correct.
So what that tells me is that we got lucky on all of our plugs. That never happens. Did you guys catch what I did? I'm hoping you did. Camera crew, did you catch what I did?
Yes.
Okay, I was just trying to identify if we were wired right.
Yep.
We are wired right, okay? Does it matter which one's which? Yes, on a flapper-on configuration, you need to know. Okay, oh, there they are. We need these two shorter ones, just like what we've used for the rest of the setup.
And then the other two little clippies are still over here.
Yep. All right, so now what I need to do is I need to put this on, make sure that we are neutral. Now, why do I care about the direction of travel right now? Because sometimes when you rotate a servo axis, there will be an absolute position change of 500 points. You might lose 2 or 3. And so it's really annoying. You get done with a mechanical adjustment and then you rotate it and all of a sudden your mechanical adjustment shifts and it's so frustrating. Okay, so I want to avoid the frustration for you and replace it with watching a 3-hour video that you could probably do in 10 minutes if you weren't filming. Hey, we do have an extra clippy, by the way. I'm gonna put it over here by our spare parts. I wanna come over here where I can sit because this is a tight angle and getting down low enough, I can't really do it standing, so I gotta sit for this part. Okay, so now looking at the bottom of this wing assembly, you could flip this up on its nose, you could put it in a plane stand or whatever, but I'm just gonna leave it on the table or the countertop here. So now same thing here, I'm gonna work this a couple of times, but I'm gonna leave it neutral where it was, just gonna make sure I get my 90 degrees. And it looks like it's gonna need to go from the outside in on this one. And I'm gonna go to the outermost position. And then I'm gonna just reach out here, and yes, that is definitely too far out, okay? So as you can see, that's way, way, way up. So we need to go ahead and run this in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, right to the 50% 90 degrees point. And let's see how we look. Yep, we gotta go in even further. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It gets us right to the 90 degree point. Then we'll pull that down. Ooh, too much, we overshot. You see how it's pulled it down too far? That needs to be up here, okay? So I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna go out probably 2. 1, 2 half turns. Then I'm gonna stick it back into the outermost hole of the servo control horn. And then I'm gonna line it up here and see where we rest. Ooh, 1/2 more, right?
Yes, at least.
You pause that. All right, so we've got this in and we've got that right where it goes. And boy, that looks pretty close, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Good here, good here, good here. Just check all the points quick and then you should be able to snap. Now this is probably gonna over snap like it did, but we have an easier access to it, so I might be able to control the snappiness, if you will. Yeah, that worked pretty good. That was easy. Okay, so now this time I'm gonna come in here like this. And I gotta say, these little clip doohickeys, every time I see them, I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a pain, but then it always turns out to be like way easier because you can take them off so quick. Okay, so now the ailerons move. That rolls us left. That would roll us right. Now we just need to focus on one control surface, the last control surface, and we'll get this one done right now. Same exact process. Turn this a couple of times, put it neutral at 90 degrees. Slide it into the outermost hole and see where it lines up. It's definitely high. So we'll pull that out and I'm gonna go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Why am I counting? Counting gives me an audible and visual reference. And then you guys can kind of see, oh yeah, that was close. Really close. I don't know, hon.
That might be.
I'm not even gonna try. That is it, okay? So guys, I count because then I've got something to work with. So like if I overshoot by X percentage, then I can make an adjustment based on my count. Okay, so now this one has to go above. This is gonna be a little bit awkward. So we have to go to my left shoulder, please. Okay, you see this? You have to slide this on, then it's above. And you see how that's on the top? So then you gotta snap it. So I'm using this tool because I happen to have it in my hands right now. But if you didn't, you wouldn't have to use that tool. It's just way easier to get in. When you don't have access to the tools. Now let's check. We're gonna roll left, oh yeah. We're gonna roll right, oh yeah. Elevator up, oh yeah. Elevator down, oh yeah. Yaw left, yaw right. Everything's working there. So with the help of a few basic tools and some know-how from Brian Phillips RC, we've helped get you in a position where your plane is in one piece. You could technically take this out and fly it in the dark if you wanted. It would not be wise and it's probably illegal if they catch you. But at the end of the day, we've got a little bit more setup to do. Now that we have the basic setup done, we have to set up AS3X and safe. Listen, what do you hear?
It sounds like they're rubbing.
What's rubbing?
The wheels on the wheel pants.
Does it sound like they are or they are absolutely?
Oh, they are.
So it's like 100% absolutely?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought was happening too. Okay, so now a couple things real quick. AS3X and safe, right here. See this? Look, when I move this, that's how much output you got. You can overdrive those, okay? All you have to do is go into the servo setup, travel, and like if you want these to move more, you can run this up to as much as 150 on Spectrum. Okay, but you wanna make sure you're not overdriving, and so far, that would get you all the way there. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that back to 100. Why? Because we have flaperons on this plane. I don't want to overdrive them because with flaperons, you can actually run them down and then overdrive them a little bit. So I am going to insist on going up to 125 though, okay? So the left aileron, 125, both up and down, and the right aileron, 125, both up and down. Now you could get out and measure this to match the quick start guide if you're into that sort of thing. I have never done that. We have hundreds of planes. That's the way they used to do it in olden times, back when they rode donkeys to work. I'm just joking. If you guys do that, it's fine. Go ahead and measure them if you want. I'm not gonna measure them because I'm gonna set up AS3X and safe, and I'm gonna use stabilizers to help me. Okay, elevator up, elevator down. That does not seem like enough. That does not seem like enough. So same thing here, elevator. I'm gonna scroll that all the way up. I wanna see what it looks like. How's the movement? Oh yeah, we're not hitting anything. Yeah. We're not overdriving. So elevator up, elevator down. Seems like it kind of gets stuck on the way down. Do you see that? Why is this side down lower? See, watch this. I'm gonna bend it. Now look, up, now down. It snaps back pretty good. I'm gonna set this to 125 just to be on the safe side. Same thing with rudder. I'm gonna go all the way to 150. I see no binding. I have no problem with that being a little bit more aggressive, so I'm gonna go 145. Why not 150? I don't know, there's just something about being on the outskirts of the pulse width modulation. I feel like sometimes you run into weird problems. So I'm just gonna go 125 on the aileron for the right aileron, 125 for the left aileron, 125 for the elevator, and 145 for the rudder. Because I like having rudder authority on all planes, namely planes that I might want to do hovers and screw around and pretend like they're 3D planes, even though they're absolutely not 3D planes. And then listen to all of the tremendous remarks telling me how dumb I am.
The helpful commentary.
I can't wait. I hope you guys watched in this order so you'll know to leave those comments. Throttle cuts on. All right, so let's talk about the next big, huge, embarrassing failure. First of all, these landing gear look like they're splayed out, but it's only because of the design. From this angle, it quite literally looks splayed out. Show them. It looks like it's bent out, but it's not. Go down level. See that? They're not splayed out, but it looks like it's splayed out from this angle. Isn't that weird?
It is weird.
Okay, so, and when you lift off, it does relax a little bit, but that's well within the norm of what we've seen, okay? Where the heck is that receiver gonna fit?
My goodness. Well, it's gotta go clear back there behind the battery.
So you're saying I gotta cram it in?
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
So everybody listen, throttle cuts on, throttle sticks down. Don't get cut, okay? We are wired up. I'm gonna unplug it. There's no reason to have it plugged in right this second, okay? Now, because this all, we gotta check reverse thrust. See if reverse thrust even does anything, or if that yellow wire does anything, okay?
Okay.
I doubt it does, but let's go ahead and try it now. I'm out of the way of the prop. You're gonna stay out of the way of the prop until we trust it. Mm-hmm. I fully trust a plane after it's been through a couple of power cycles, to be honest. But, okay, so, real quick, we're gonna shut off throttle cut. I'm gonna walk out of this menu so I don't accidentally bump something, throttle cuts off. That is crazy, throttle cuts on. Now, what I need to do is I need to go in here. Let's go to System Setup, Disconnect RF. This is just a test, guys. You don't necessarily have to do this. Channel assign. Let's go to channel 5. Let's assign that to switch G, okay? Okay, so now we're gonna go to monitor mode. We're gonna look at the G spot. Did I hit it? Mm-hmm. Did I hit it?
Yep.
Okay, good. So, plus 100, it'll be reverse thrust if this does anything, which it may not, okay? So I'm just gonna try this and see what happens. The throttle, this signal would be in the top. You need to be careful in case something goes all haywire. Yep. I doubt this is gonna do anything. Okay, so throttle cut is off. Giving throttle. That's reverse thrust.
It is.
That's forward thrust. Wow. Throttle cuts on, back to forward thrust. Throttle stick is down, throttle cuts on. Well, in that case, we are gonna use this channel and I'm gonna show you how to do it right now. So we have to do digital switch setup now for that. So digital switch setup is gonna be down here, digital switch setup, highlight it. Select switch G, okay. So I want this all the way forward to be forward flight, and I want this to be reverse thrust and reverse thrust, okay? So this needs to be minus 100, so I'm gonna highlight it. I'm gonna scroll the other way to minus 100. Remember, this has to do with the position of forward thrust or reverse thrust, okay? Not the amplitude of thrust therein, right? So this is gonna be plus 100, which will be reverse thrust. Well, I'm glad we talked about that now.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Maybe this is a Beetlejuice receiver, or yeah, see. Beetlejuice, what was that stupid manual the other day?
It was just Beatles, not Beetlejuice.
Oh, just not Beetlejuice. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so just so you know, that box has to do with the position of your switch. This box has to do with your input statement, okay? So I'm gonna walk out. So now forward, if we go over to monitor mode, you can see, go back one, you can see what position we're in. So there's forward thrust on gear, reverse thrust and reverse thrust, okay? So now we'll test it. We're gonna get out of the way safely. Throttle cuts off. Forward thrust, as you can see, it's blowing at my belly. Reverse thrust. Watch this, I'm gonna blow the tree where all the planes are. It actually worked. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so now I also wanted to point out the fact that it actually changed directions, which is kind of handy. Maybe Predator ESCs could listen to the advice.
Well, we'll see if it works
in flight.
In flight.
Let's try it right now. Okay, full throttle. 50%. Below 50%. And it does switch. Throttle cuts on, throttle sticks down. Forward thrust is engaged. Okay, so we've all learned something. Camera crew was right. Just this
we
one
already
time.
knew that.
This one time. All right, so we can trust this. Throttle cuts on. We don't have a timer set. I'm gonna set a timer right now so we don't forget that. Timers are good. Click, scroll down to timer. I want to set it for 5 minutes for now until we know how this responds. Active with 1 out. Anything over 25% starts the timer. Clear is going to clear it. At 1 minute, I want a voice call out. At 30 seconds, I want nothing. 20 seconds, I want nothing. Inhibit. At 10 seconds, I want a voice call out. At expiration, I want tone and vibrate with a tone every minute thereafter. Throttle cuts on. When I move past 25% with the throttle stick, even with throttle cut, it's gonna start counting. Cancel clears it, okay? All right, so we're done with all the settings. We have all the surfaces moving in the right direction except for flaps. So let's set up flaps. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Brian, just get to the forward programming. That's where I need the help. I know, we're getting there. I gotta do all the things and they have to be done before we can do forward programming.
Yep.
Okay, so from the back side of the plane here, so you can see everything. We're gonna click, we're gonna scroll down, we're gonna set up flap system. Flaps, okay, remember these are flaperons, so they're gonna all 4 of them are gonna move down. Or up, if you want up, you can do that, okay? Some people like to do spoilerons for extra fun stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and do flaperons on this one. So I'm gonna set them to 25 for takeoff flaps. Oh, except I want that to be my normal flight mode. Then I want this to be 25. Now this is almost a full length flaperon, but it's not inboard. So it's not gonna probably balloon, which means we do need to go up on the elevator. Normally when you deploy flaps on an inboard, they go down and then that makes your plane kind of balloon a little bit. And so you put elevator down to correct and go straight. And keep going level, okay, straight and level. Now, when you have an outboard aileron, you're way out here outside of the prop wash and stuff, and so it does different things. It wants to nosedive you, and then you have to pull up elevator to actually correct that so you keep going straight and level, okay? So in that case, I'm gonna exaggerate this, you can see, and we can test our theory. This is sort of an ambiguous number. That's gonna nose down, okay? So we're gonna go negative. And I think probably 6 and minus 10, okay? Now, I'll exaggerate it a lot so you can see. So for landing flaps, you can see it's going up and up and up in the negative value. I want that to be like minus 10, okay? And then we'll do our flaps. For landing flaps, let's do them, I mean, you don't wanna go like all the way down because then you lose too much roll authority, right? You do still have a little bit, but I'm gonna go to like, let's go to like 80. And then that leaves quite a little bit for us, okay? Now, no, let's do 85. Let's do 85 and let's do takeoff flaps at a little bit less. Let's do like 15, okay? So there's takeoff flaps. Nah, it's not enough. We gotta do more than 15. You're probably asking yourself, what's magical about these numbers you came up with? There's nothing magical about it. Now we're gonna set the speed to, gross, I just spit all over that. We're gonna set the speed to 2. Okay, so takeoff flaps, now landing flaps, takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Now, if our elevator correction is backward, we'll have to adjust that in the maiden flight. So if you ever see us do an unbox build radio setup and then you say, hey, we gotta change our flap setting for the elevator compensation, then we might do that on the maiden flight. And that's part of the reason why we try to confuse the heck out of everybody by putting flights out of order. I'm just kidding. We don't do it to confuse you. We do it because we have to learn what we need to learn to make the video so that you can see it fly. But here on Brian Phillips RC, we actually show our true maiden flights Almost always. There are very rare occasions where we'll have a maiden flight, where we have some catastrophic disaster or whatever. It's super uncommon, maybe like 1 out of 1,000 planes, okay? We haven't done 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, we have probably done 1,000 aircraft, but I don't know about 1,000 planes, even if you include the little ones.
Right.
But that being said, when you see some of our competitors on YouTube, they might be flying 30, 40, 50 flights by the time you see anything. Ours are true maiden flights. We take them out, we unbox them, build radio setup, and then a lot of times like it's dark. When this is flying, it's flying the next morning most of the time. Sometimes it's literally the same day. During the summer, we'll film in the afternoon and go straight out and fly. Chronologically, you'll see them in separate videos, but it's like right in real time, okay? So that's the way we do it, because here on Brian Phillips RC, our objective is to give you guys the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. So if you're watching this, you already probably know that. But if you're brand new to the hobby, you're like, hey, can I size this guy up? He seems like he's a little over the top on stuff. And he gets annoyed with his wife, even though she's perfect sometimes. Maybe that's got something to do with being married for 20 years. I don't know. If you've been married for 20 years, let it be known in the comments. But that being said, we are very genuine about what we do here. We're very transparent. We're very imperfect, I mean, especially me. But we've also done a lot of different planes over the course of the years. And they taunt me and say, Brian, why have you only flown me 3 times or twice or once? That is my reality with hundreds of planes. I want to fly them, but we have another one waiting, and we want to help meet somebody's needs. And just because you don't need it doesn't mean that there's not 14 other people that are waiting and really wanting help on this Carbon Arcus from Durafly, okay? So we're gonna help you if you're the one that came to this channel to watch this video for help on the Carbon Arcus. Smash the like button, leave it in the comments below. It does help to encourage us that we're not just spinning our wheels here on YouTube, because we could just make shorts and probably have a lot less effort involved. But at the end of the day, we really want to help the RC community. We just want to milk it for sales, you know? We do want to sell stuff. We do want to make money doing this because we're helping to pay for gigantic, huge expenses to build this giant building. It's going to cost more than our house and our property. There you have it, okay? Yes, it's going to be extremely expensive, but it's going to be awesome. And when there's a full-scale airplane in there and we have a visitor that's flown in, it's going to be amazing. And there's just so many other things that I can't even tell you about yet because I want to leave some stuff to the imagination. It's still going to be pretty awesome. And so we can't wait. And maybe you're that person that's going to be flying in and enjoying an afternoon of flying with Brian Phillips RC. Anyway, we'll get back to that later. Whenever you're supporting us financially, pretty much all that stuff goes back into the hobby. And there's not much left for my wife for a nice evening out. Right?
Nope.
So thanks for supporting us, guys. Over the years, you've supported us a lot, and we have basically reinvested all of it. So, all right, here we go. All right, so continuing with the radio setup. Hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have been with us for a long time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're brand new, don't worry. We try not to beat you over the head too bad with it. But just know it's going to somebody that's a true RC. I don't want to say aficionado. I want to say an RC advocate. We are true advocates. Yeah, that too. Okay, so this, we normally would do a shelf liner trick, okay? Shelf liner trick is where we take shelf liner and we put it down on the surface so that the batteries don't slide. But I'm just like genuinely don't think there's anywhere for the battery to go. There's like a little nut, like a little shelf down there. And if you guys see that shelf down there, that shelf is gonna stop the battery from going back too far if you're in a 2200 4S platform like we are.
Okay.
But my concern is, where in the heck are we gonna put this receiver? So I think what's gonna happen is I'm gonna see if I can now take my extension cords off if they'll reach. And I do not know that they will. But I'm just thinking this is the one that seems to be the tighter one. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave the extension cord plugged in so I don't have a lot of ambiguity on where to plug this. And then I'm gonna unplug the extension cord now because we only have one that needs to go plugging in. And I'm gonna see if I can reach. Forceps time. Guys, if you don't have forceps are one of the tools that we would suggest you get. It's a tool that like most guys don't just have lying around, but if you work with electronics a lot, these things are super nice and they're cheap. We have links to all sorts of crap like this on Brian Phillips RC in our supplies tab, or you can just go to bprc.me/supplies. You'll support us when you buy stuff from those links, but really at the end of the day, we're trying to support you by helping you find the stuff you need. And then we just make small commissions from the different companies that we work with. That's why we're not married to one versus the other. And that's one of the reasons why you can come to Brian Phillips RC. You can trust what we say, because I don't care if you buy this, or if you buy that, or if you buy the other thing, or you buy this helicopter here, or you buy that F4U Corsair, or excuse me, F7F, or if you buy the F4U Corsair is awesome too. 1.7 meters. It'll take up more room though. It's like as big as that table.
Yeah.
We've done that plane too, by the way. Very good plane. Beautiful plane, very slow. Should have been faster.
15 minutes.
All right, so I'm gonna hold this. I am trying to see if I can reach this through, and I'm not 100% sure. I think we got to do it because it's gonna go back there. You know it's not going to the front.
Right.
Okay, but I just don't want to accidentally unplug any of this stuff while we're dinking around, you know, and that's what concerns me mostly, and I clipped this the wrong way. See how it's bent tip forceps? I should have had it this way so I could control and manipulate this wire a little better. You're blocking my light. Maybe I'm blocking my own light. I think that's what's going on. Sorry, I was incorrect in my assessment. So guys, this is gonna plug in here. Where do we know it's correct? We just gotta make sure we get the polarity right, which we did. Now, this has to mount somewhere, and it has to get stuck in there somehow. How is it gonna get stuck in there? Man, that is a really, really dumb way to have that XT60. But I'm trying to think if there's a better way we can do it. I just don't know that there is. So this XT60 is gonna go under the throttle line, okay? In my case. No, it's not. It's gonna go over. It's gonna go over because the way it's routed. Then this whole dang thing's got to get glued in somehow, somewhere, okay? And that's our next move, and it's gonna suck to do this because like the only place I can think to do it would be to come in here and go sideways like this, okay? So I think I can go here because I think there's a flat enough surface, but you just gotta remember there is a little bit of a taper to this body, and we are gonna pick up on that. So I wanna try to get this receiver as flat as I can get in here, and there is correction. Okay, so how are we gonna mount this without undoing all these cables? I'm gonna show you how we're gonna do it. We're gonna use some China glue. Okay, China glue. You can use mucilage if you wanna order it from Hobby King. We got links to the plane in the video description below. This is from FMS. It seemed to work good. You could also use foam to foam if you're ordering the Spectrum receiver. The foam to foam is a little bit less tacky, so I don't like it as much for this specific application. But you can see we've gone through, this tube has had better days.
Yes.
Okay, so how do we glue these in? You're probably thinking just use double-sided tape and stop being such a cheapskate. I have tons of it. It's very expensive and I don't mind using it at all. I would gladly use it if it worked better than this, but this works better. So I'm gonna show you the way I know and not the way that conventional wisdom says to do things, okay? Because here on Brian Phillips RC, we don't ignore all conventional wisdom, but some stuff we have just found out better ways to do things in our experience because we've done so many of them. Okay, now I'm spreading this out. You're probably thinking, you just put that on top of that label. What if that label rips off? Well, then the receiver comes out and it's gonna be all wonkadelic. I'll shut off my stabilizer and I'll land the plane and I'll figure out what happened. If you don't think you can handle that, pull that receiver sticker off if you're really nervous. I don't think you're gonna have that problem, by the way, full disclosure, by the way. I just think this is gonna be a plenty good application. You gotta remember that little teeny bit of glue, once this sets up, is gonna be incredibly strong and also rubbery. And rubbery is good when it comes to this type of mount because you wanna absolve some of the vibration from making it into the receiver, but it doesn't have to be 100% vibration free or anything crazy like that. In fact, I don't really even care if you translate 100% of the vibration because it's a stabilizer. It needs to know about vibration. Unless, of course, it's coming from the way out of balance prop, like ours is. Oh. Which, by the way, Yak 11 sounded like a gasser because it was so out of balance. If you don't know how to balance a prop, while we wait for that glue to set up, I'm gonna show you a trick. Trick of the day on Brian Phillips RC. Here's the trick of the day. It's the easiest way to balance a prop. It's not the best way. The best way is to take this off, put it on a prop balancer, which looks like a little thing that sits on the table. It's got wheels. You put a little piece of metal on there and it spins and it'll just like the heavy side goes down. And so you just make it so that there's not a heavy side and it will balance forthright. Otherwise it will like slowly work its way down. You know that thing I got on my bench?
Yeah.
So the way you can do it is you'll turn this on, which I'm not gonna, I'm just setting up my glue still, and you'll let this spin. It's gonna vibrate like crazy. Then you're gonna take a little slice of tape like this, and you're gonna just kind of haphazardly take off a little bit, and you're gonna set it on here like this. And you're gonna put it on really flat, and you're gonna put it on a leading edge, okay? Now, reverse thrust might undermine this, just so you know, okay? You're gonna run it, and you're gonna say, is it better or is it worse? If it's worse, then you're gonna take this very piece of tape, and you're gonna take that, and you're gonna take and untape it like this, all janky like. Then you're gonna go to the other prop, because there's only 2 of them, it ain't rocket science, right? And then you're gonna tape that on there. Literally the same crappy piece of tape, and you're like, yeah, but that looks like crap, Brian. I know, it's just to figure out the answer to your question. Then you're gonna spool it up and you're gonna say, wow, that was a huge improvement. Okay, if that was a huge improvement, take another slice of tape. Go as far outboard as you can each time, okay? As far as you can go is the best option, okay? Because you can use less of it to balance it, okay? Because sometimes the balance, that does look pretty terrible actually. So you're gonna add a little bit more now. Okay, great. Then you're gonna spool it up. Wow, that actually started vibrating again. Okay, then you're gonna take your second piece off, just like this, and then you're gonna say, okay, well, I know about how long I need for that first piece of tape, and because I got so haphazard with it, now I'm just gonna take this off. I might even use some scissors to cut it, so I got a nice clean cut instead of these little ridges, okay? So it's, you know, like a little bit more, but a little bit less than the overall length of the 2 pieces. You're gonna slap this on that same side. You do have to keep track, okay? You're gonna slap it on there. You're gonna do a really nice, clean job. You're gonna wrap it around. You're gonna spool it up. It's gonna be like, wow, huge, huge improvement. And it took like 30 seconds. That's literally how you do it. Now, if you have a 3-bladed prop, do that same thing, but you have 3 blades to deal with. If you have a 5-bladed or 4-bladed prop, same thing. It's just a little bit harder because you could actually have 2 of them that are out of balance from one another. It's a little bit more complicated, a little bit harder to do. Also, the spinners can be out of balance too, so you gotta take these apart, put some tape on the inside, do the exact same process, a little bit harder though. Full disclosure, that's a small spinner. All right, so this is tacked up to the point where we could probably stick that in there, okay? So you can see that stuff. It just gets super ultra tacky, okay? So I'm gonna push it back there carefully, and I used my forceps last time. It actually worked pretty good, so I'm gonna try that again. Just grabbing horizontally. I don't want to like try to break it or anything, but it's just hard to get your fingers in here. I can't not block you. Okay, you guys see what I'm trying to do? You can't clamp down on it all the way. Okay, so now that we're back here, I'm just gonna press that gently up against the side. Now I'm gonna take my hand and I'm just gonna press it into the sidewall. And that's all that she wrote. I mean, that's literally all we're gonna do. And then we're gonna look in there and give you guys a crack at it. You see how it's at a bit of an angle? It's kind of like this, okay? This is the way the plane's gonna fly. This is the way it's gonna sit and taxi, okay? So we're close to square, but we're not totally square, okay? We're gonna correct for that in forward programming with level, model, and capture attitude, okay? So these are no longer needed because we're done with wiring, we're done with gluing. Now all we need to do is basically do forward programming if we can get it done before our battery dies, okay? Throttle cuts on. We're gonna try to put this in, okay? We're gonna slide this out most of the way and just barely bite. So we have purchase on there. We're gonna see if we can get this in. We can't easily. So I'm just gonna assume that we're good there. Now remember, you do need to make sure at some point that you check your center of gravity. Your center of gravity is listed on that little quick start guide. Throttle cuts on, throttle sticks down. Say it out loud, be safe, walk away with your hands, both of them, okay? Don't get caught because you're in a hurry. You're in my way. Okay, good. You guys hear how it's beeping? That's okay, it's normal, it's ordinary. The boot process is a little bit different on these ESCs than the older ones that I'm used to. Okay, so I'm gonna just slide this. This goes back in here, and then it drops down. So if you don't have that right, it's not gonna close. And yes, you do need the strap hooked. But for us to finish our forward programming, we should be fine. So that's what we're gonna do right now. What is forward programming? You're about to see. Click, scroll down, forward programming, highlight it, click, gyro settings, first time setup. Make sure everything's set up. Once it's set up, set it level, hit continue. Now set it on its nose and then hit continue. Why are we doing this? Because it's gonna help it to determine the position that we mounted the receiver. Remember we just mounted the receiver? Look at that, that looks about the same as what we just did. So that's gonna help us to get our orientation so that the flight awareness of this receiver is correct. Now hit continue. Gain channel select. We want it to be the right, the rotary knob, which it says is aux3, and I think that's still correct. So highlight that, and you might be able to, yep, you can rotate it, and it did pick up on it, nice. Now next, now hit apply, it's gonna boot. I'm gonna hold this in case it tries to take off on me. Waiting for the boot. Okay, now we're back to working. One dance. We're looking for 2 for safe, 1 for AS3X only, okay? So right now we're AS3X only. Click to reload into forward programming. So we go into gyro settings. Now we're gonna go to AS3X settings, and we're gonna go to fixture adjustable gains. They're all adjustable, but our mode's not changing, so we gotta get that set, okay? So I'm gonna hit back, flight mode setup. We're gonna go in here, we're gonna highlight that, and then we're gonna move this. aux1, input is not D, it's actually F mode, okay? You guys see how that worked? You gotta make sure it does it right. Here's how you're gonna know it worked. Go to next. Does that change? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Very good. Now we want it off in the middle, so on this, we're gonna sit inhibit. Now it's on, now it's on. Pretty cool, huh? Now hit next. Now hit back. First time setup, safe setup. This is already set, but let it populate. Verify it's the same, hit next, hit continue. Flight mode 3, that's where we want it. Flight mode 1 is gonna be AS3X, it's gonna be safe. Hit next, hit next. Level model and capture attitude. So this is where you want it to be level like it's gonna fly, not level like it's taxiing. Okay, so in my case, I usually grab a pillow or 2. I have pillows close by on a couch, so that's what I grab. You can grab whatever you want. Okay, that's pretty close to what I want. That's gonna fly pretty much straight. I might actually bring it forward just a hair. That's better, okay? Level, model, and capture attitude. Look at that, guys. See that? I always do it twice when I've got it at a weird angle like that, and that is about right because we did not get it in there perfect. Okay, hit next. So in this flight mode, this is gonna be safe. I want safe on, so I have to go to self level and angle demand. That turns on safe. I'm gonna change this to 70. That's gonna allow us to go to 70 instead of 60. This is our limited bank angles, pitch angles. So I'm gonna go to 70 here and 70 here. That just opens up the flight envelope so we can do a little bit more when we're in safe. Now watch what happens when I go to this. Nothing, it's off, and nothing, it's off, okay? So now safe is on only in this step, and we'll hit next. Now watch this. We're gonna apply the changes. It's gonna dance. Here it comes. 1. Now 2. That doesn't mean you're in safe, but we happen to be in safe still, okay? Because this switch is in safe. I'm gonna click to reboot. Now I'm gonna go into gyro settings. I'm gonna go to system setup, and I'm gonna go into utilities, and then I'm gonna go into gyro response test. This is one way you can do it. There's other ways. This is the easiest way. It's the most definitive, and that's why we're doing it. Look at that. When I move it, it moves that way. So it resists the input. It moves this way. It resists the input. Now watch this. It resists the input. It resists the input. Environmental input, not stick input. Stick input is always priority number 1, unless you lower the priority and you give the controller more priority, okay? Like the limits on the bank angles, okay? Now when I roll this plane, when I roll it down, that goes down. When I roll it up, that goes up. When I roll this down, that goes down. When I roll it up, it goes up. Now watch this, takeoff flaps, landing flaps. When I roll this, that needs to go up. It does. When I roll this, this needs to go up. Yes, it does. Now elevator, rudder, all the surfaces out of flaps, everything is tested. Now we can set this down. I'm gonna exit the gyro response test by clicking. Now that we're out of the gyro response test, I need to check one more thing because we're almost out of time on this model and we're almost done, okay? If you need to make changes, come back in and go to relearn servo settings. Don't do that now, it'll reset everything. AS3X settings, AS3X gains. As you can see, these are the baseline. That's off, so there's nothing. And the baseline, meaning if this was all the way up, you'd have 40, 50, and 60, or you'd have 0, 0, and 0. How do I know? Let's go back and I'll demonstrate. Let's go to the gain sensitivity and change it from 1x to 4x. I'm gonna turn this all the way up. Throttle cut is now off. Doesn't matter, you can't give throttle. Throttle cut's back on, but it now works, okay? This moves just like our gyro gain response, but it's oscillating, self-induced oscillation. Don't really care about that, except I can demonstrate on and off. Off, on, all the way up, 50% on the rotary knob, all the way down, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. I'm just moving in one, I'm not changing the amount I'm moving this plane, and it'll be same and safe or AS3X in terms of the artificial 3X stabilization response, okay? I'm gonna put that back to 1X. Okay, so what have we done? We've set up the plane, we built it, we got everything going the right direction. We set up takeoff flaps, we set up landing flaps, we set up elevator correction, we set up throttle hold, which is working. We also set up thrust reverse, which is pretty cool. Throttle cut's back on. We set it all up, but now we just need to check center of gravity. How do we check center of gravity? Throttle cut's on, by the way. 2200 4S is installed. You want to show them that picture. I like to mark mine with a felt marker, and I use something like this, calipers. So we'll turn these on. What are we going, 95 to 105?
Yep.
Okay, 95 to 105. So on the top wing, 95 to 105. Not all planes are created equal. Not all measurements are as clear as this because we have a clear centered point here. 95 to 105. So here's 95, excuse me. Here's 95. Okay, so I have to kind of keep this point. You can actually, I can use that tip too. That's our mark. I would not normally mark the top, but the problem is I'm gonna have a real heck of a time marking the bottom on this plane because I don't think I can get to it. So I'm gonna mark the top, and then I'm gonna go to 105, so 10 millimeters is a pretty good range. So I could actually just measure 10 millimeters from there. Okay, so we'll get that down to 10, close enough. There's 10. There's 10. Now you could technically check this upside down if you want. It just would be hard to balance on your fingertips. But I'm just gonna do this right here, and that's gonna give us a little something as a quick guide and reference. Remember, checking the center of gravity turns into a certain amount of subjectivity because the plane is designed to pivot on a certain axis. This is how you set that pivot point, okay? That is balanced pretty dang nice, and I can just sight down the length of the wing. As you can see, it's balanced near perfectly with 2200 4S. Guys, we answered hopefully all your questions on this build for the Carbon Arcus. I have no clue if it's gonna be any good, but I can tell you this. We know that we got the AS3X set up. We know that we got safe set up. We know that we have an offsetting right here. We know that we have thrust reverse and flaps, as well as a rotary knob for master gains. We also have all the expo and dual rates set up. So there is nothing left to set up. So your excuses have evaporated. If you want this Carbon Arcus, you want to support Brian Phillips RC, all you have to do is look no further than the links in the video description below. If you want to support us in other ways, we have Patreon for monthly support, YouTube monthly support for members, YouTube super thanks, and PayPal for one-time donations. But we firmly believe the best way to support Brian Phillips RC is watch the videos, smash the like button, and then of course pick up an amazing plane, helicopter, VTOL, quad, or whatever it happens to be, leaf blower that we happen to be reviewing at a given time, because we really love RC and we love aviation, and we are putting our whole hearts into it so that we can help you guys get out of the chair and into the air with the full truth, nothing but the truth. So help us God. I'm Brian Phillips RC. We hope you guys noticed it, and we hope you'll be back. There is literally so much right around the corner, but we can't tell you about that because it's in that dark office over there.
Right, you can't
and
see.
some of them are early releases. So we can't always tell you about them. We wish you could, but if we would, then it would be a problem. So awesome, Durafly, good job. This build went about 100 times better than I expected. And that's no BS from Brian Phillips RC. It may seem like I'm trying to sell planes from time to time, but I'm just totally frank with you guys. I don't care which plane you like. I just want you to like a plane. And once you get done liking that plane and you're ready for the next one, we want you to like another one. We're gonna help you do that, and we hope you can see that. Now, that being said, the NX10 has been great. The NX8 will be almost as great for most of you. If you don't need Hall effects gimbals and you don't need sliders, which we have yet to use, you can get the NX8, which is why we have a brand new one sitting in there with a brand new, bigger 6600 battery that's gonna go in the back, and we'll review that as soon as this thing pukes. But it has failed to puke. So if it never pukes, then I guess Airware is been lying to us all this time about 250 model memory, and we are gonna put it to the test, basically because I'm too lazy to set up another transmitter. This thing has been great. All right, hopefully we answered all your questions, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we take a short video, we make it long because we do long format. That's what you demand, and we hope you enjoyed it. And we do shorts from the long. So if you see something on shorts, you can almost always, like 99.9% of the time, you can find a long and see the whole story. So guys, check it out. We're so glad to have you with us, and we hope we'll get you back. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell for notifications so that you're alerted to all the new content. All right, that's all we got. Thanks for watching. Come back for more.